Alright, let's see if this works. I'll try this again. It says they can see me. Come on, let's do this already. It says my stream is healthy, yet I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone. I hope you can see me. Sorry if some people drop off. It says live stream offline. Why am I offline? It says I'm live. Okay. Damn it. It says my health is good. I got a good health. Let's see. Oh, damn. I don't know why it's not seeing me. When I started the yeah, I'm not getting the thing here either. Let me see what my settings are again. I think it's not giving me enough video. I think my video resolution is too slow. Not appropriate. Hold on a sec. Let me stop it one more time and change the video streaming. Hold on, people. Come right back. I see there's 10 of you watching. Please hold. All right. Let's see. See my thumbnail. Let's see, I've got good audio. Alright, can you people hear me? I can read your comments. Yes, I can. It says my stream health is good. I just haven't figured out why I cannot get a live video. But either way, you don't have to see my mug. You can just hear me. So ask me your questions, and I hope you can. I can read your comments. So, as you hear me type away. Okay, good. All right. So just ask me your questions. I don't know why I'm not getting video. Something is weird here. Might be with my webcam or something. I don't know. All right, but ask me your questions. You know, you don't have to see my mug. Okay, recent videos from me. Where have I been? Well, I put up a couple of videos lately. There was a video on for women. There was a belting. There was a belting one that I put up. I have a couple of videos that are in the can that are waiting that will be released this week. So those are ready and up and ready to go. So don't worry about that. Those are up there. I haven't put them up. Well, I can tell you the story of why I haven't put anything up in a while. But let me answer your questions first. All right, let's see. Fahimuchi. That's a mouthful there. Okay, I recently found my mixed voice, but I've been singing for 3 days, and now I can't seem to access that part. What's going on? Well, what have you been doing? Hold on, Mike, I'll get to you. Well, thank you, HK. No links, please. Okay, your mixed voice, singing for 3 days, now I can access it. Well, if you recently found your mixed voice, you don't want to go like a bunch of days without singing. I mean, I know things happen and we have life and all that. But try to do something of it. You know, mixed voice is a weird misnomer because your voice is a mix all the time. When you speak, you are mixing. So, yeah, the thing is I don't see my. You know, I'm looking and I don't see my webcam coming on. You know, I have a little light on the webcam and stuff. That tells me that it's on. It's dark, so maybe that's the problem. Let's see. Maybe if I turn it on. Okay, now I'm on. Let's see if that opens the stream. I don't know. I don't think so. But either way, the webcam is on. I mean, I can see me. The webcam works. Okay. But either way, okay. Thank you, HK. I'm teaching. Okay. So, like I said, my teaching. It's when you speak, you are always. Okay, you're busy with your university. Okay, no problem. Like I said, though, but you can do. Like I said, when we speak, we are a mixed voice all the time. We are mixing resonance from our throat, from our mouth, and from our nose, our nasal cavity, all the time. If we didn't have any nasal resonance, we would sound like this, like we weren't, you know, like we had a cold. And if you weren't resonating in your throat, your voice would sound like this. It would sound, you'd sound nasal, like this. So you have a nice full. So mix is kind of a weird. It became a buzzword, and it's not really. You know, they're trying to explain this kind of middle road between your speaking voice and like pure head, between this voice and that voice. The thing in between. They say, well, you're mixing the two. Well, you're always mixing the two. It's a matter of ratio. It's a matter of how much of each. Now, mix can be, it can be a heavy mix, or it can be a light mix. Like if I sing a G, let me get a G here. If I do a light mix, G above middle C, G4. That's a nice light mix. Heavy mix. I just added more bottom end to that. Added more throat. Now, is that easy to do? Yes and no. It's easy to do once you learn the sort of the trick. I hate to use that word, but the trick of it. You know, it's knowing how to manipulate your resonances. So, like I said, mix, but you can do that. You always, if you want to mix, just do a simple thing like whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. And you know, I could have done this as a Skype thing too, and you would have been able to see me. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hi, Steven. Thanks for being a fan of my videos and stuff. All right, so that's with mix. It's, you know, you can always do mix. It's a very simple thing. Whoa, from a high C. Let's see if we got a high C here. Give me a high C. Whoa. You don't have to be very loud. Just a nice, you know. Whoa. Even if you yawn that. Whoa. That's learning how to mix. Take that and do it backwards. And there you go. How to sing in your own voice from Sachin P. King. Okay. How to sing in your own voice. Well, you're always singing in your own voice. You're speaking in your own voice. The problem with a lot of people is that they try to sing in somebody else's voice. A voice that they like. A voice that they, you know, envision they should have. And, oh Mike, when will the breathing course be released? That will be released in the first week of October. The Breathe program will be released the first week in October. Again, because I got things got pushed back because I can tell you the story, but first week of October is when that'll be out. Any warm-ups you suggest for a person who used to be in high school choir? It's been a while to get back in vocals. Any college classes he wants me to do a solo. Okay, warm-ups. Well, I have a complete warm-up program called Vocal Fire, which you can get just for $35 on thevoxshop.com. TheVoxshop. The Vox Shop. You can get it just $35. And it's also a really good... and I don't want to sit here and hawk my programs because that was not the purpose of this, but it's just warm-ups. It's just $35. It's also really good if you're just an absolute beginner. It's also a really good program for that. It gets you kind of acclimated, introduces you to basic singing exercises, using your voice in the proper way. It's a good setup. So, but warm-ups are, anything that goes from lip bubbles to humming to light sirens, lip bubble, humming, you do the same thing, to light sirens, which is, let me back off, very light little sirens help you warm up. And then you slowly start using larger sounds like to get your voice closer to the stage at which you sing at. Let me get to this. Okay. Let me go through some more of your how to sing soft songs loud. Okay. Belting C5 and sing various vowels without a straddle. Well, if you're belting C5, good for you. I don't really belt it all that much. How to sing soft songs loud. Well, if they're soft, you can't sing them loud. That's the whole point of why they're soft. Your breathing has to be shallow. You're going to be doing more clavicle breathing or chest breathing as opposed to diaphragmatic breathing. They're not going to be loud. To be able to sing loud, you have to add pressure to that. You have to add more diaphragmatic or breath pressure, which when you add more air, you get louder. And the song doesn't really become soft anymore. Soft is relative. I mean, when you feel like a ballad, you sing that loudly. You sing that, same thing you would do with any other song, whether you're singing loud or not. If I'm singing, let's see, let me give a ballad, like Yesterday. Let me take the Beatles' Yesterday. Like, yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. That's about as loud as you could sing it. Because if I go, suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. Now it's not a ballad anymore. So, ballads is, you have to sing it mixed. Well, okay. If you're doing heavy mix, you feel your body engaging, but don't feel any strain. That's exactly what you should be feeling. That's exactly what you were. Well, thank you, Colleen, to be your college teacher. I live in Sacramento, but I still do Skype lessons, Maintain the vocal cord compression with airflow. Right. Your air is what maintains the compression, as well as some glottal compression. How much you're, in a sense, holding back the air. I hate using that term, but how much the vocal cords are actually pressing against vocal folds. Again, let me clear that one up. So we'll say it's not the vocal cords; it's called the vocal folds. Well, the vocal folds are when your vocal cords close, when the glottis closes. There is kind of a flap. There are two flaps that look like hangar bay doors. Those are the folds. The cords are actually the inner edge of the fold. The things that make contact are the vocal cords. The flap that connects it to the outer portion of the glottis is the vocal fold. So when you say vocal cord, you are actually being correct. People like to say, vocal fold. It's vocal fold. It's not vocal cord. Blah blah blah. But vocal cord is actually more accurate than vocal fold. The vocal folds are not connecting. the vocal cord on the inner edge is. So if you want to say vocal cord, it's fine. Well, vocal cord compression is how much you're actually pressing against itself, and then you put the air pressure behind that. The balance between those two is what gives you a clear and loud sound, which is actually the title of another upcoming program that I'm working on called Loud and Clear, which is a belting program. Okay, let's see. Is there a spot you feel your breath leaned to take the tightness off your throat? Hi, Song Rainbows. Is there a spot you feel your breath lean to take the tightness off your throat? Well, your throat shouldn't be tight in the first place. The easiest way to start learning how to get your breath to take over and not squeeze the throat is to do very light little laughs, like ha 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 ha. Throat is open, you're breathing through the throat, you're getting a sound. Now take that H and do something like an N. Na 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 na. Now there's less air and more cord closure. Na 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 na. Take the ah out and make just na. Na 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 na. Yo, Kenny Roberts, where's the face cam, yo? For some reason, my video stream does not want to be working. I think it's a problem with the webcam. So we're just getting audio at the moment. Yeah, I've tried 4 times to reboot this and get the video stream correcting, and for some reason it's not coming through. I think it has to do with the encoder. I'll have to do some more testing and stuff. So, well, you're just going to have to, talk to a blank screen. This is an audio Q&A, let's put it that way. As if we were doing this over the phone. Okay. So, see, I'm crooning now, right. Okay, let me go down there. How to do distortion. Can you please explain the root behind the distortion singing? Well, distortion, there's different types of distortion. There's grit, there's rattle, there's fry. I do a kind of false chord sort of distortion. I do that kind of thing. That took me a while. It's delicate because there are a million ways to do that wrong and only a few ways to do that right. And the number one thing that I learned in terms of doing distortion is to not fear doing it, fear of getting hurt, because then you'll be hesitant and you'll clamp down and you'll hurt yourself. Now it wasn't painful at all, Kenny. That's the myth of it. It sounds worse than it actually feels. So I always thought it was painful. So I was hesitant to do it. And when you hesitate, you clamp down and hurt yourself. Lucky for me, I got a student who came to me that death metal screaming was all he could do. He didn't really know how to sing cleanly. So I said, well, I'll teach you how to sing cleanly if you teach me how to do the distortion that you do. And some of his tips were, it sounds more intense than it actually feels. It's more air than closure. And you cannot be afraid to do it. You just have to let it rip. And oddly enough, I found it by trying to do Golem from Lord of the Rings.
I was trying to do this little voice, and oh, my precious, little precious, precious! And I got this kind of weird voice like that.
And I went,
Hey! Hey! Wow!
and I got that kind of thing, kind of a high Halford thing. And I brought that down,
Hey!
and I get more of a Hetfield thing in the bottom. But it's tricky, though. I can't, my voice isn't really designed to do that really well, so I have to be very, very careful with that. You also suffer from spasmodic dysphonia. I have a student in Israel that suffers from spasmodic dysphonia, and spasmodic dysphonia is often misdiagnosed by voice therapists as being, well, maybe it's acid reflux, maybe it's your just diet and all this, or they recommend surgery, and Dysphonia is mainly now if you have a physical ailment, there's something physically wrong with the vocal cords, then then that's a problem. But if it's muscle tension dysphonia, like you described there, you have to basically just release the voice. And I have a student of mine. He's in Israel, and he was talking back here in the back of his throat, and he couldn't talk for very long. But it wasn't something that was all the time. If he went out with friends to a club and he had to talk to them over the loud music, his voice tended to. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with your vocal cords, fine. So it's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing. It's how you are setting up the sound to make the sound. You're not breathing through your sound enough. Your speaking voice, where it gets raspy. Yeah, you're not breathing enough. You're tensing. You have tension, right? So, and it's the same thing with my it's also where are you resonating? If you're now, can you guys see the thumbnail? There's a thumbnail there for me. I see a thumbnail, the Rock the Stage, subscribe to a better voice. I can actually see that. Okay. So, I don't know, let's see. Anxiety, right. Right, if you're hesitant in speaking. Yeah, well, I would suggest, Fahim, I suggest you set up a Skype lesson with me so I can really go into in-depth about how to release your voice, show you all the different ways that you can start to release your body and get you breathing through the sound better, which is what I did with my student in Israel. And well, if you're around people that your noise voice gets really bad. Okay, yeah, it's a mental thing. I hate to say it like it's mental, but okay, Kenny, let's see. It's a constant sinitis. I'm a sufferer. I'm a fellow sufferer. It's not constant, but it's chronic. It happens a lot. Since I have a deviated septum in my left nostril, so I'm prone to sinus infections, throat infections, stuff. I mean, right now, my right side is clear. My left side feels partially blocked. So, it's what happens. My right side is, so I don't want to hear my own. Okay, so you have to keep that thing clear, man. You have to really, really keep it clean all the time. I have. Oh, my student, how's he doing now? Okay. He's doing fine. Like I said, it's a process. He's been speaking that way for about 8 years, and he's gone to many voice therapists and stuff. He even had a couple of Skype lessons, or 1 or 2 Skype lessons with Mark Baxter, which didn't help. Because Mark is a good teacher. He even calls himself a therapist, so he thinks more from a mental perspective, and it wasn't really a mental perspective. It was really a physical coordination between his body and his voice. He was tensing his whole body. So I taught him a whole bunch of techniques to get the diaphragm to be loose and get his resonance in the right spot, and his voice sounds much, much better. Again, it's a process that comes and goes, but he's speaking with a better voice more often than with not. So, let me get to Song Rainbows, do you teach classical people as well? Yes, I do. In fact, I've done many. I had a quite well-known Italian tenor fly in from Palermo. I think that's in Sicily. But he was Sicilian, Italian, and Sicilians will freak out. But he flew in from Palermo to spend a week here with me. teaching him, and I've had a bunch of classical, let's say, based singers who sing on Broadway come to me to learn how to sing more contemporary, because they didn't want to sing, regular, pop or rock music with a classical sounding voice, with the constant vibrato and the heavy dark tone and all that. So they wanted to know how to kind of make the transition from classical to contemporary. So I basically taught them how to take the classical sound out of the voice but maintain the quality. And I've taught a few straight classical people, a couple of baritones that had trouble navigating their break area over the E and F to get up into the, what they call the high G and high A, which is a G4 and high A4. They had been struggling with it for years, and they came to me to learn how to navigate that to get up to their upper range. And I got them to one guy. He only came from me for about 3 months, but I got him from only being able to get to about an F. I got him to a high C in full voice in about 3 months. But he was a very learned singer and knew his voice really well. Most people don't see that kind of progress that quickly, but he was more of a very, very learned and experienced singer. So that can happen quickly for people like that. Okay, let's see. Jordan, hello Jordan. Let's see. You able to sing Judas Priest? All right. And some Queensryche. 30 minutes though. Tips. Tips is a bad word. You can't sing any more than 30 minutes. Well, that's longevity. Again, it's you're too tense. You're either not using the right muscles to sing with longevity. To be able to sing for a long period of time is not like being able to run or swim for a long period of time, where it's like the more you do it, the longer you build up. That is true, but it's to a very, very small extent. Longevity, stamina comes from having a relaxed coordination. A relaxed being free of unneeded tension, free of unneeded, you're not using anything that's not needed to basically create the sound you want. I'm going to tell a very, very quick story here, because I haven't put it out publicly. If you're on my Facebook page, you'll know, or if you're on my Instagram, which is RPM Vocal Studio, by the way, all one word. You'll see what I was doing, what I've been doing for the last 8 months or so. I have been legendary rock singer Rod Stewart's vocal coach since December of last year. And he was having an issue with stamina. He's 72 years old, but you talk about pizza. Actually, I had one. A slice right before I came on. Hi, Singwise. How you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you on here, and not. I'm hoping we don't get infiltrated by the nemesis, the YouTube nemesis. Okay, tips. So I guess tips is, because a lot of people said tips, vocal tips. Well, tips are okay, but tips are, if you have tips, giving somebody a tip is okay. I gave Rod Stewart some tips, because the guy already knows how to sing. He's been singing professionally for 52 years. But I gave him a lot of tips in terms of stamina, because he has a residency at the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, and he has to do like 5 shows in a week, and his vocal stamina can start to suffer, where he has to sometimes take 2 days off and not speak, which is hard when you have a 6 and 11-year-old, a 6-year-old boy and an 11-year-old boy at home. To not speak for 2 days is really, really difficult around young kids. So sought out my advice to help him with that. And last weekend I traveled with him for a couple of dates out in Chicago and Cincinnati to observe his show day ritual, to make sure that the process that he was going through was correct, his warm-up, his prep for the show, what he was eating, his warm-down after the show and all that, so he could maintain it. And because he had started. I was giving him instructions since about December of last year. He had a bunch of Skype lessons, but he flew me out to Chicago to travel with him so I could observe his show day thing in real time, and I gave him a bunch of tips, so to speak. Let me go down to some of these lessons here. Okay, it was John Lennon's or Paul's rocking this thing with Mother and Train just raw emotion. That was just raw emotion. Paul McCartney had said he does have an ability to go up and kind of distort at the top. Lennon was more just screaming on Mother. He was doing a lot of that primal scream stuff around that time. So, oh wait, my video is buffering. What's going on there? Oh, it looks like I lost my... I don't know what's going on here. This stream is just really weird today. Okay, so... oh, Cody. Hey, Cody, how you doing? Radio New York X. Thank you for what you do, Cushion. People have very different vocal ranges, or more of a question of technique. Oh, people have very different vocal ranges. It's based on where your... Hi, Ray, how you doing? Jeff Tate Singer here, too. Been told I should belt, but I have a classical background and avoid belting. I need to sound bigger. Well, classical singers, Ray, they do belt, you know. The term belting really was kind of invented by Ethel Merman. You know, hello, that kind of sound. That was where belting came from, the term belting. And Liza Minnelli and people like that doing these big voices and just belting. Belting is not unhealthy. Belting is really just singing a normal sound with just more air pressure, just making it louder. Like, I'll give you an example of like regular and then a belt. A regular classical, if I do, let me see if I get an F sharp here. Is a standard classical F sharp, dark. Now if I belt that, that's a belt. Not a whole huge difference, but similar. So belting is not, they belt with a low larynx, right. The chord compression is really strong, right. Now, with a contemporary belt, right, belting is not, there's nothing wrong with belting. I remember Paul Stanley from Kiss, Colleen. Yes, and I actually gave him a couple of Skype lessons about 2 years ago. Oddly enough, Gene Simmons' son found me on YouTube, emailed me, and asked me if it was okay if I gave my email address to Paul Stanley, and I gave him 3. One was just a bit. We just talked for the very first one, and I gave him 2 sort of vocal lessons there. The problem with Paul is that he's at this particular point where he has gone beyond the point of rehabilitation, because Gene won't let him take 2 years off to rehabilitate his voice. So there's only so much he's going to do. You wear it well. Okay. The doctor told me I give up singing, but I kept on doing it. The ENT, don't go by ENTs. ENTs are not give up singing. Horrible advice. ENTs are not versed in vocal technique. They're medical. So an ENT is ear, nose, and throat. They're not laryngologists. They're not vocal therapists. They're not educated. I know one that didn't even know. I know an ENT that didn't even know what the definition of the definition of adduction was. Didn't even know what that was. or diaphragmatic compression. Didn't even know what that was. So don't take advice from ENTs about singing. Only about keeping your vocal cords healthy. Don't worry about that. Yes, I did Pavarotti. Let's see. I just have to learn to sing light without flipping into falsetto. That's hard. Messi de voce is difficult. I know a lot of guys think I know very, very, very talented singers that can do the outward part of a crescendo, but they cannot do the decrescendo. Right, so you didn't even know what a ventricular fold was, like the false chords, right? So don't go by ENTs. Like I said, they're just looking at, they're just looking at the health of the vocal cords and how they're functioning properly. But in terms of their use for singing, no. Okay, so let me just get to this. There's a lot of questions. Okay. Okay. Vocal ranges, yes, it's all on. Anyone can learn to sing higher than their natural range. Low is difficult because of the length and thickness of your vocal cords. They'll only vibrate so low. They'll only create sound down to a certain pitch. People with lower voices like myself have shorter and thicker vocal cords. So they have more mass, so they can vibrate at lower frequencies. A guy with a voice that talks like this has longer and thinner vocal cords, so his ability to sing lower is limited because his vocal cords just will only go down to a certain frequency. But everyone can stretch their vocal cords higher. I've taught basses how to sing. In fact, I had a Skype lesson with a guy 2 days ago who's a real bass. He talks down here. Real bass. And he could barely sing past E above middle C. And in this lesson, I got him to an A, an A4 above middle C. Not in an extremely huge, big voice way, but he didn't think he could even stretch his voice that high. And I got him up there in a full voice. I got him in a sort of, which he did not think was possible. So anyone can learn to sing higher. It's low range that's limited. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay. What kind of distortion does Paul Rogers use? Most likely, his distortion is natural. It could be false chord. He could be vibrating his soft palate. It could be. No. Thank you, Kat. I have a really, really nice camera. For some reason, it's just not working today, and I don't know why. But thank you. Now the webcam is on. I don't know why. It's just not going through the encoder for some stupid reason. I don't know. I just didn't. The encoder that I'm using just doesn't seem to be. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm trying to scroll back to some of your questions here. Any exercises to get heavier on the F4? F4. Bring that chestiness up farther to maybe a D5. No. When you keep on stretching the vocal cords for higher notes, you lose mass. The vocal cords become thinner because the pitch has to raise. For the pitch to raise in the vocal cords, they have to thin out because they're being stretched on a horizontal axis. So they're being stretched. Therefore, they're getting thinner, like pulling a rubber band. So as they get thinner, they lose mass. Therefore, they lose lower frequency mass. They lose lower resonance. So a D5, unless you're a guy who talks like this, and even that, someone like Tony Harnell, or Michael Sweet of Stryper is a better example. He has a voice that talks up here. So his D5 is still like chest voice for him. Even Bruce Dickinson, who is a natural tenor, his D5 is not as thick as his A4 or his B4. Because it's just the pitch frequency. It's the frequency itself. Even Midnight from the band Crimson Glory, his D5 and E5s were thinner. And that guy talked like this. I mean, he had like a chick voice. He was like a natural countertenor, super, super high speaking voice. Even his D5 was still thin, because his thin voice basically just couldn't produce a lot of lower mass. So you can't really. Training the third bridge, meaning how do I sound powerful after passing E5? Passing E5, powerful? Well, it's loud. So let's see if I get an E here. There's an E5, right? I mean, you're going to get a thin sound. It's a matter of, can I get it loud? And if I do kind of a Halford, wow! That kind of thing, it's loud. But it's not going to be full. Even for a baritone. Even Tony Harnell's E5s, and Michael Sweet's E5s are thin. So it's the lower you are as a voice, like a baritone, it's going to be a thin sound. I don't know many people that have really thick sounding E5s. Even a female can have a really huge sounding thick E5. So let's see. Between an alto and a soprano, which is what kind of soprano? And I'm thinking, what kind of soprano? Well, you're either an alto, a soprano, or a mezzo. So between an alto and a soprano, which is kind of like what they call a barytenor for men, which is not quite a baritone fully, but not quite a tenor. It's kind of like a baritone who can sing in the tenor range. So you kind of fit in between. Like a high baritone is a baritone, but also a low tenor. So you kind of sit in between. Like I'm on the low baritone end. So I'm not quite a bass, but I have some bass qualities in my voice. I can go down into the bass range. So it looks like my camera wants to start because I keep getting the spinning thing. So it's got to be my settings. Because no one else is at home. No one's on Wi-Fi. Man, I'm hooked directly into my modem and router. So I can't get a better connection here. Advices to go through to go through Jerome Eubanks. Any tips to sell tickets for a show? Okay, good. How do female opera singers sing high without sounding thin? Resonance. They hoot it out. They put the sound more into the back of their mouth to create a little bit more of a deeper sound. Sell tickets for a show. Any tips to sell tickets for a show? Okay. One, I hate the fact that they make you sell tickets. That crap started back when I was started out in the club scene in the late '80s. It was some places had you sell tickets, and some places they gave you what was called a drink ticket, which had your band name on it, had the club name on it, and you would pass that out to people, and they would give those in. When they paid for admission, they would give the guy the drink ticket, and the guy would give them this little ticket to get like a free beer. And at the end of the night, the guy would count up all the drink tickets that had your name on them. And most bands just printed up regular things. We printed ours on neon green paper, so that our drink tickets, our drink vouchers, whatever, could easily be seen in the box. So they're very easy to count. And that's how we could also keep track of how many people came through. I mean, we would go, we would go to the place that we're playing about 3 weeks, 4 weeks before our date. Go there and mingle, hang out with people, talk to them, try to get them, give them the voucher. Now, if you're going to sell tickets, what are you going to give them to buy the ticket? You're going to give them, if you have CDs, you're going to give them a CD. You're going to give them a sticker. You're going to invite them to have a beer with the band. Invite them to sound check or to hang out with you after the show. You want people to buy a ticket for you, give them something in return. Give them a free download of your music. If you normally sell it. Someone buys a ticket to the show, they get a free download. At the show, give away a free t-shirt. Give away some swag. To get people to come to your show. I hate the idea of selling tickets for a local band. I think it's stupid. It's the owners are basically being lazy and putting the entire responsibility to bring people into his establishment on the band's shoulders. And louder, it said, okay, Fahim, they want to be louder, not fuller. Louder is just more air. You just have to compress more air from your body up and out. Do it loudly. Can't do it softly. Non-resident. AJ. Hi, AJ. I got 30 people watching. Very nice. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know why for you just joining. I'm not exactly sure why my webcam is not streaming through here. I have a spinning circle here that's telling me like it's trying to connect it. We'll just do this as an audio thing. I mean, you really don't need to see my face per se. I mean, I know it's more personable, but you can sit there and pick your nose and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't have to see you and you don't have to see me. Okay, to do, if you can do an A5 in head voice, okay, do it loudly. That was my problem one time. To do it softly. Softly. A5s are hard to do softly. You have to be. Best way to give you advice to do it like up that high softly. You're gonna have a lighter sound. Disconnected around E5. Try fries. Try this. Try call a spot adduction, which is a. Try that with your range. Try that with a very simple exercise like and go up and take no breathiness. Try to keep that nice little edgy. That's the quickest advice I can give you. Is it normal I'm doing something wrong? No, it's normal. If you don't know how to connect the chords softly, you just have to learn how to do that. It's not something your vocal cords know how to do naturally, so you have to teach it. And that's the best advice I can give you. Okay. Hey Samuel, hope you're doing awesome. Do I know Daniel Hyman? No. I don't know that it is. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. Moji or Magi. Okay, thanks for joining us. Song Rainbow. Is there any way to keep the larynx raising from A5 to C6? Okay, right. What arenas in your performance background? In musical theater, chorus? Strictly bands. I've never been in musical theater. Never been in a chorus. Strictly in bands from high school. I've been in those arenas. Like I said, I've taught people in musical theater, taught people that are sung in choruses, and I've gone and given advice to them. I gave a class to a musical theater group. I went and coached a church choir. So I've done those theaters. I even coached a barbershop quartet once, which was an interesting experience. Okay, so those are my backgrounds. Basically, it's all live performance, live rock in a band, playing on stage, lugging the equipment, all that kind of stuff. So that's my background there. Okay, I'm trying to scroll back here. So I hope that answers your question about selling tickets. Okay. Let me go back to Radel X. Do you play with the band at the moment? I play in 2 bands. Radio New York asks, do you play with the band at the moment? Yes, I'm in 2 bands. I'm in 2 tribute acts, actually. I'm in a 60s tribute act called Mod Squad, where we do all music from the 1960s. I'm also in an 80s tribute called Radio Star, which we take pop and new wave songs from the 80s and turn them into hard rock songs. So as if like, you know, the Scorpions did a cover of A Flock of Seagulls. That's essentially what Radio Star is like. My tagline or motto for the band is the 80s are back with a bang. So basically we do hard rock covers of pop and rock tunes from the 80s. On my channel here, if you go into playlists and you look under live performances, there are, I think I put up 3 clips from Radio Star. I think doing like the breakup song, and I think Maniac is up there. That's what Radio Star does. You can go to modsquad60s.com and check out the 60s group if you want to go there. Let's see. Does Pavarotti sing the high notes of Nessun Dorma in chest or head voice? So you're talking about the B flat, I think, at the top, or is that a high B? I think it's a B flat at the top there. Pavarotti's basically in a mix. It's head voice, but a very chesty head voice. It sounds chesty, but it's really a high mix. Because he's not quite in super heavy. You can hear the headiness in it, but there's a low larynx there, so it has a lot of mouth. Thank you, Sing Wise Vocals. Have fun jetting off. Chat soon. Projection. Lots of singers are just telling students to sing as loud as they can. No. Projection is not about volume. It's about resonance. Because there is a thing called perceived loudness, which is a sound can appear to be loud, but is not. It's well projected. Projection is about resonance. It's about getting the voice to cut through the air, to travel. Like a car horn does not have to be super loud for it to catch your ear. It's the pitch of it. I think most of them used to be an F sharp. It was that that sound, that pharyngeal-ish sound of it, that piercing, like a car. Like I said, it's not like a trucker's, air horn, which is extremely loud. A regular car horn is projected. It projects loud. Same with like a foghorn on a ship. You know, that kind of sound. That's meant to project. Low frequencies move more mass. Since they tend to use them in foggy conditions, they need that sound to move air. So it's a low pitch. Car horn's a high pitch. That kind of thing. It's meant to pierce the air, to project. It doesn't need to be loud. Projection is about resonance, not loud. Loud is just loud. And loud can lead to damage. It can lead to just basically, it sounds like you're shouting. Lugging your crap everywhere it's not right. Help strengthen the voice. Okay, does bright ping pharyngeal sound help to strengthen the voice for belting? My Sharona, no, we do not do My Sharona. Bright ping pharyngeal help strengthen the voice for belting. Strengthen, no. But it does help in the projection of belting. The ping, that does help in the projection. So I don't have to be really loud for that to sound loud and to carry far. But if I do, I'll get you. I'll give you a dark belt, like, ah! Okay. But if I do that with more ping, more pharyngeal, ah! I probably added 10 decibel loudness to that, just by the resonance factor, just by adding some upper end. Okay. Let's see. In vibrato. What's vibrato? AK acoustic. How you doing? Vibrato. Okay, vibrato comes from a relaxed larynx. If you have any tension in the larynx, undue tension from the outside, the vocal cord cannot. The vocal cords of the larynx cannot oscillate. It won't oscillate. The vocal cord has to be relaxed. Now you can learn to teach yourself a little bit of the spin, what they call the spin of the vibrato, and that's by imitating like a car that doesn't want to start on a cold winter morning. You know, like and that's the oscillation of a vibrato. Once you get that relaxed sounding, then we want to get that sped up. And you have a vibrato. That's the best tip I can do. It has to be relaxed. Have I ever heard of Gary Puckett and the Union Gap? Yes, I met Gary Puckett last year out there on Long Island. The drummer in both my bands supplies his band. He's the artist rep for Diodario Strings and all that. So he supplies his group with all their strings and stuff for tour. So he's known Gary for many, many years. And we got backstage and I met Gary, very, very nice guy. He introduced us to Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits and Tommy James of Crimson and Clover fame. And Moni Moni fame. They were on this all on the same bill. Gary Puckett is a very, very nice guy. Resonance, yes, I was just doing before, which is that pharyngeal. Breaking the Chains goes into a lot of resonance stuff. Again, like I said, I don't want to hawk my programs here. That's not what this is for. Let's see. Let me go back at some of your comments here. I've heard of the Lost Horizon band, but I've not really. I probably listened to them maybe once or twice. I can't. Not off the top of my head. Sorry about that, Samuel. Okay, the Metal Screams. I did have a friend of mine is. Hold on, let me tell you. Hold on. I think my webcam is trying to start. So maybe I can get some. Okay, I see Elvis. Does Elvis do vibrato? Yes, Elvis did vibrato. Hi. I want to say anal because I don't want to say. Oh, no, it's anal probe. Okay, anal probe. Interesting. Does Elvis do vibrato? Yes, he did. And now the end is near. And so I face the final curtain. I did what I had to do. Elvis had a very nice vibrato because he grew up around like the crooners of his day, like the Frank Sinatras and the Dean Martins, who had that nice, had that nice ringing vibrato. A power moto vocalist, I'll tell you who else is a student and a friend for power vocalists. Is also, if you know of Ralph Sheepers from Primal Fear, a good friend and another student of mine, even though he's a fantastic vocalist. Okay, let me go back here. Diodares, okay. He also does Evans drum heads and Planet Waves cables is also what he's good for. Strengthening the voice for belting. So what exercises will strengthen the voice for belting then? Well, that'll be in my Loud and Clear program. Again, don't want to hawk it. Low larynx sounds or neutral larynx sounds. Both, actually. And a whole bunch of other stuff. Where does an 80s metal singer's vibrato come from? Throat, mouth, or abdomen? It should come from the throat, which is basically the larynx going, that. Now, if you watch Gene Simmons of Kiss do his vibrato, he does it from his mouth. He kind of flexes his jaw, which is a cheating way of doing vibrato. Abdomen is more like Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac. That that kind of sheep machine gun vibrato. It should come from the throat, though. And that's why I said they kind of because you're trying to get the larynx to oscillate. So it does come from the throat, not from the throat, but basically from the larynx. Hey Dana, you're an alto and you struggle to get above D5. My mix voice for that, or should I keep yelling? No, do not yell up there. Mix is the way you want to go. You want to get your head voice, but you want to get that sound the back of the top of your roof of your mouth. Because if it's you don't want to. Don't yell up there, Dana. Bad. You have to keep on work on finding your mix voice. Well, for females is different. Being an alto, you are the lower of the female voices to get above a D5. It would be the same way I would take a low male voice. You have to start above the D5 in a very light voice and bring it down through and learn how to have a relaxed okay. All sorts of vocal problems. Okay, yeah, don't yell. Okay. Right. HK. Feels like your back is able to inflate too. Right. Because basically what you're trying to do is when you breathe in, is you're trying to get the entire center mass of your body between your waistline and the bottom of your rib cage. You're trying to get that to expand outward, which would include your obliques, the floating ribs, and some of the back muscles, which are rectus abdominis and the back part of the pelvic diaphragm. You're trying to get all those. Okay, Ken, I'll tell Paul you're a fan. Go get your groceries. Okay, don't want to keep you. But yell. Okay. Do not yell. Right. So okay, you should be. That's exactly what you should be feeling. A sort of 360 expansion between the bottom of your rib cage and the top there. Okay, let's see. Let me go back to Dana here. You asked a question. Tristan's videos, and he advocates yelling. Well, Tristan has absolutely little to no experience in anything in terms of performing. I think he did. I think he was in one ensemble in one play, I think, and that's about it. And he advocates why yelling is good for your voice. It's nonsense. Yelling is never good for your voice. Controlled belting is okay because that's done correctly. Yelling is a yell. Yelling is not good for your voice because you will tighten. If I do it, here's a belt. I'll give you an example. Here's a belt. Hey! That's a belt. Here's a yell. Hey! It's ugly. It's terrible. It does not promote anything good for your voice. Is he a good vocal coach? Like I said, I don't like to publicly bash people, but is he a good vocal coach? He's extremely, put it this way, extremely unexperienced. Well educated, he reads a lot, but the problem is he has absolutely no experience, so he cannot make anything relative. cannot relate the knowledge that he has in his head, cannot relate that to anything physical, because he doesn't perform, doesn't really perform, hasn't really performed much at all as a singer, has not done, 3 sets a night, 2 nights in a row, 90-minute show where you're singing the entire time, has not done any of that. So to advocate for yelling is just stupid. It does not promote anything healthy with the voice. A well-controlled, well-defined resonant belt is better for you. Never, ever yell. As a matter of course. I mean, you can yell for effect. Punk guys yell all the time. But is he a troll? Well, you see, Tristan came on YouTube, unfortunately, with the wrong premise. He came on basically to be confrontational. And he thought if he was provocative and confrontational, that would get him attention and get him subscribers and get his viewers. Because A, he doesn't have a job. So, I don't know if he's if he's rooming in somebody else's house or he lives with mom, I'm not really sure. But he even admits that he doesn't have a job, couldn't be employed, all that kind of crap. I mean, how can you be employed, when you give yourself, a triple mohawk and color it 3 different colors? Who's going to employ you, really? But like I said, he's a smart kid, well-educated, does read a lot. The problem is he has no context for anything. He's book smart. And to be an effective vocal coach, you have to have the knowledge plus the experience. And that's what he lacks. And unfortunately, at his age and with his attitude, he will never ever be a good coach because he refuses to take advice. Thinks he knows everything, thinks everybody else is a scam. He's the only one that can, that only knows everything, and everyone else is, if you're over the age of 35, you're too old to understand the typical young person's, old people don't get it. So he'll never be a good coach, in my opinion, unless he radically changes his attitude. And yes, Data, and, I don't really think he got fame, he got attention. Also, if you put other people, better and well-known coaches, you put their names in your video titles. Yeah. You're going to get views. They're being controversial. And another guy, Carl, from somewhere, his little mini-me, also trying to do the same thing. Where they're bashing on Ken Tamplin and all that. There's plenty of things to talk about with Ken Tamplin. But, to say that he's a scam artist and blah, blah, blah is nonsense. There are things you can bring up, and I brought them up, about his tongue position and that he belts really high, and most people won't be able to do that. But that doesn't mean he's a bad person or anything like that. To go after him as if, and Tristan went after his family, went after his son, because they're heavily Christian and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's petty nonsense, and I just don't. Since March of this year, I have basically just disavowed anything having to do with him. I don't look at his channel. I don't look at his videos. Nothing. I don't care what he's doing. I'm just doing my own thing. I just don't really care. Yeah, he comes live all the time, but he doesn't say anything. What happened to Jamie Vandera? I don't really know. Jamie's a good friend of mine, and I don't really. He kind of dropped off the radar. Jamie, again, great coach. Again, lacks experience in terms of live performance. Not really his fault. He does have a medical condition that does keep him from being confident when he performs. So, I can't damn him for that. But he's a great coach, very knowledgeable and all that. But he's not very savvy in terms of, marketing and getting his name out there. Hi, Kathleen. Yeah, you're very late, but it's okay. Kathleen Hudson there, you see her on the chat there. She's a student of mine. Let's see. You wanted me to go back to one of your questions. Your prior question. Let me scroll back here for. Sorry if I'm not getting to all your questions here. Is it possible to sing with distortion without being very loud? Yes, it depends on the type of distortion to do. HK it's a millennial kid called Tristan. I forget what his channel name is, but don't waste your time. Don't waste your time with him. He's basically someone said a troll. Like I said, I gave him advice very early on that people would take him seriously and he could do something meaningful if he just behaved professionally. Treated people with respect, treated others who have come before him with respect, but, he just doesn't have that mindset. He thinks he knows everything, thinks he has the whole world figured out, and anybody over the age of 35 is old and doesn't know anything and blah, 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 and all that kind of, the typical millennial. I don't want to rag on millennials, but he's that type of millennial that people hate, that don't like. Ken charges $400 a lesson, not $300. $300 was about a year ago. He charges $400 now. Now Ken, another one. Ken had never really taught before in his life, and he started at $175 an hour, which is outrageous. Mark Baxter has been teaching for over 30 years, and he charges $175 a lesson. Now he's had like Steven Tyler as his as one of his students, and Scott Whelan from Stone Temple Pilots was his student. He's had some famous clients. So and he's been around for 30 plus years, so 175 is reasonable. Ken started at 175. Which is outrageous. I've never taught anybody before. And then he got on, I think Daniel Tosh.0, whatever it is. They had him on a segment on the show, and all of a sudden he went up to $300 an hour. And now he charges $400. Why does Ken charge so much? No clue. No clue. No coach is worth the same amount of money per hour as a lawyer who had to go to school and pass the bar, had to go to law school and pass the bar. No vocal coach is worth that much. Seth Riggs charges $500 an hour. I think that's it's thievery. Now that I'm Rod Stewart's vocal coach, I could easily double my fee, easily double it. But I'm not going to, because I don't want to outprice beginners and median people, from getting quality coaching. And a lot of people charge a lot of money to take lessons with them, so they don't have to deal with beginners. So that they don't have to teach a lot. If you only teach, 4 or 5 people a week, you don't have to teach a lot of people per week to make a good amount of money. And to me that's lazy teaching. I would rather, my bread and butter is not Rod Stewart. He's not my bread and butter. Celebrities only come to you once in a while. They're not coming to you every week. It's the normal person who comes to you every week. Again, local guy charges $100. Why? Does he have his own studio? Does he rent space? What does he do? Some people, they feel if they charge more, people think it's worth more, and that's true to a certain extent. But it's down to the quality of teaching, not how much they charge. Let me go back to, I don't want to dwell on other coaches. Ken is not a celebrity vocal coach. He has no celebrity clients. Like I said, Rod Stewart is my student. I'm Rod Stewart's vocal coach. I traveled with him last week. So owns a music store. Yeah, so that $100 is to help pay his rent on his music store. That's why he charges $100 a lesson. You're helping pay the rent. You're helping offset the cost of people who don't buy or aren't buying musical instruments in his store. That's why he charges $100. That's why. You're helping pay his rent. Because not a lot of people are buying as many instruments as he'd like. Okay. So, Ken advocates pulling the abdomen in for support. That is wrong. The abdomen should remain stable. Pulling it in, I mean, if you as you breathe out, I mean, your core area here is going to deflate and come in towards the center of your body a little anyway. But you don't want to physically pull it in, because that's going to interfere with the movement of the diaphragm. I went to a couple of master classes. Maria Callas, I did a master class for her. For classical people know who that is. And Marilyn Horn, who does a master class here once a year here in New York City. And both of them went out of their way several times to correct people pulling in their abdomen support when they were singing. So I'll take their advice. Do hop into others as do run into you. Michael Trimble, nice fellow, advocates a very strict classical approach. Again, some of his techniques are a little old and outdated. Some of his terminology is a little old and outdated, because Michael learned to sing a long time ago. So a lot of the terminology and methodology back then has been updated since. I don't think Michael keeps up on his research today. So a lot of what he advocates is from a very, very classical approach, not always relevant or suitable for contemporary singing. But I mean, he advocates, open throat and, correct breathing and all that. So, I can't damn him on, there are a few things I disagree with, mainly because he's just old methodology. What do I think about Singing Success and their methodology? Well, Brett Manning is a very, very good friend of mine. And he knows that I disagree with some of the speech level methodology. I think it creates too thin a voice. I think they bridge too early, and I don't think they allow enough compression on the vocal cords, enough pressure to create a thicker sound. If you hear Brett, when he's at a high C or a high B, his voice is almost in a whistle sound. It's very female sounding. It's very thin. Most people don't want to sound that thin. Singing Success is okay if you sing like light country, very light classical, or like light R&B. It's okay. Speech level, I think, is good up to a certain point, and then from there you kind of have to add on to that. Now, even Brett with his speech level methodology has broken away from the Seth Riggs version of it, because Seth Riggs is very, very rigid in his methodology, and at first Singing Success didn't teach anything about breath support and all that. Now they do. They do advocate and teach some things having to do with belting, which they didn't do before. So Brett is sort of adapting to the times. People asked me questions about other other coaches. It doesn't make me look bad. I'm not bashing anybody. I'm being fair, and it's nothing I haven't said to these people. So I'm not saying anything behind their back. Didn't Caruso pull his abdomen in on the inhale, though? No. He didn't pull it in. His abdomen did retract slightly because Caruso was expanding his rib cage out and holding the rib cage out while he sang. Because he believed that gave him more flexibility for longer phrases. To do something like one of Caruso's exercises was And for him to be able to go through that whole thing, he would hold his rib cage open. So when you hold your rib cage open, the abdomen does pull in a little bit. But he didn't physically pull it in. It's just because you're opening the rib cage, the abdomen kind of pulls in. So he did not. CVT singing method. CVT is... yeah, see, that's what I mean about Michael Trimble. They were pulling the abdomen in. Again, it's a really old technique. Expanding the rib cage out. Something that does not is not really relevant to contemporary singing. You're not singing super loud to the back of an auditorium, and you're not singing extremely long, complicated phrases. Contemporary music is short phrases, quick phrases. You don't need to have all that air. The CVT, there's a lot of stuff on vocal modes. It's hard to explain the CVT model because it concentrates a lot on vocal modes and switching modes back and forth, which I don't exactly agree with. They lack a lot of stuff in terms of breath support and practical application. Trying to get to a lot of these. Right, singing success does not teach all levels of vocal cord compression. That's part of my problem with their methodology is they don't, if you put any sort of pressure on the voice to create a big sound, they think that's bad. And it's not. Your voice can handle all sorts of various amounts of compression. So, that's, like I said, I think speech level is good to a certain point. And then after that, you have to bring in a more classical approach and combine the two. And that's kind of where my methodology is. It uses a little bit of speech level, a little bit of classical, and a lot of my own sort of, I hate to say my own sort of invention, but I've taken those two things and kind of created a kind of mixed system where it doesn't matter. Use everything that works. Use anything and everything that works. Doesn't matter from what style or technique or methodology it comes from. Find what works for you and use that. Because no one way is correct for every person. There's no one-size-fits-all vocal method. There's no such thing. And don't let anybody tell you only they can teach you how to sing and their method is the best. Some things will work for some people and won't work for others. Singing success works for some people. It doesn't work for others. CVT's method works for one way, not for others. Robert Lunte's method works for some people, not for others. Mine will work for some people and not for others. So my thing is create a soup, a cornucopia, a goulash, a ratatouille of all of this stuff. Find what works for you and throw out the rest. Let's see. Hi, I guess that's Tarath Mani Sharma. Very nice. Hello, Axion Jones, Dark Sitari. Squeezing muscles for hitting high notes. No. Let's see. My friend says that my voice, cracks when I sing high notes. How to fix, please help. That's a loaded question and I can't really do here. What about overthinking on technique and physicality? I was enjoying the singing song itself. Overthinking is the number one cause of vocal issues. Learning how to sing properly is a process of elimination, not addition. That's both physically and mentally. It's very Zen in its approach. That's why I like to call it the Zen of singing, is when you free your mind, you free the voice. Singing is mentally should be a very simplistic coordination. If you overthink the process, you start to get in the way of the physical coordinations. Overthinking, learning, that's why I don't really like if singers learn a ton about the the technical coordinations of the voice, like really get in and learn all the nuts and bolts, because it can lead to you overthinking of the process. I don't think Celine Dion or Enrico Caruso or Luciano Pavarotti or Andrea Bocelli, I don't think they know everything there is to know about the inner workings of the larynx, because it's not relative. You don't need to know everything about how a car works to be a really good driver. It helps if you want to, fix your own car, do your own brakes. But to be a really good driver, you don't need to know how the engine works. You just know how to know to navigate the coordinations of driving. And that's what singing is. Like, you don't have to know all the physics about how to surf to be a really good surfer. You don't need to know all the science behind the physics of surfing to be a really good surfer. You just have to know how to use the coordinations, know how to lean with a wave, and that's from experience. Let's see. How do I buy your method? Well, if you go to any of my videos on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You can get both of them just for $50. You can also visit thevoxshop.com. Let me write that in. You can also visit here. Again, I don't really want to dwell on this because I didn't do this stream to promote my own stuff. But if you want to go there, you can go there and you can read about the programs anyway. And then go back to any of my videos, any of my recent videos anyway. And there's a link in there. You can get both of my courses just for $50, digital download. Let's see. Do voice types matter for singing? Depends what type of singing you're doing. If you want to sing, super high tenor stuff, and you're a bass baritone, your voice type is going to matter to a degree. Now, I can sing up into a soprano range, and I can sing into a tenor range. I'm not going to sound like a soprano. I'm not going to sound like a tenor. I can sing the notes, but the quality of my voice, the thickness, the roundness is going to be different, because being of a baritone, lower baritone area, my voice has to thin out and stretch farther to get to those notes. My vocal cords are shorter, have a thicker mass, so they have to thin out more to get up to a high C. So a guy with a voice that talks like this and he sings a high C is going to sound more natural than me singing a high C. Me singing a high C, it's going to sound like I'm singing a high note. When you listen to someone like Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, Joe Elliott of Def Leppard, I'm trying to think of some males with high voices. Like I said, Michael Street of Stryper. When they sing high notes, it sounds very natural. Kevin DuBrow, Quiet Riot, also a guy with a really high voice. When they sang their high A, B, C's, and D's, it sounded very mouthy, very natural, like a speaking voice. Even Ronnie James Dio, because their voices their speaking voices sat closer to those notes than someone who's a baritone or a lower voice type. Those notes are easier for them to reach. But being a lower voice does not prohibit you from singing. Does it matter to a degree? That's why I don't really like to talk about voice types, because classical methodology has segmented the voices to such a degree that people think, well, you're a baritone, you should only sing up to this note. And if you're a tenor, you should start on this note and sing to that note. And, if you're a bass baritone, you should sing from this note and stop at this note, because that's the classical segmentation of voice types to maintain the character of the voice. If you sang too high, they thought you didn't sound like yourself anymore. So they segmented off voice types for characters, basically. Tenors tended to be the heroes. Baritones or basses tended to be the antagonists, or the villain. So they would want someone with a lower voice to play that role. They want someone with a more naturally higher voice to sing the more heroic voices. Because it was more natural for them to sing in that range. What do I think about Tristan's videos about baritones, Aluna? Don't care. So let's see. Is there a way to resonate while singing? I'm trying to get through all this. So many questions. How to get rid of chest artifacts from head voice? They shouldn't be there if you're doing it right. They should drop out. Your lower frequency should drop out as you sing higher. Many of the top singers use techniques that are considered unsafe or dangerous by mainstream singing teachers. So why do teachers teach a methodology that doesn't help singers? Well, it all depends. Classically based teachers will tell you that belting and doing distortion and singing really high is unsafe or dangerous. Even doing like a whistle, they'll say is dangerous and unsafe. And that's absolutely pure nonsense. It's just their dogma, their belief system based on what they were taught. So, it's not dangerous. I've seen so many, and I've had arguments with them on other forums about HK. Don't worry, you don't sound like a fanboy. Okay. Okay, let's say that. But, so what they do, well, a lot of them, they'll say it's unsafe or dangerous, you don't need to learn that, because they don't know how to teach it. So I've had students come to me that have gone to other teachers, and they said, well, this coach said to me, you don't need to learn that. That's dangerous. That's unhealthy. Simply because they didn't know how to teach it. So they just tell you don't need to learn that. And that's a good indicator of a teacher that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. So, let's see. Lip bubbles or resonance hums like Jamie Van Der. I don't know what I'm... No, again, Jamie, again, because he doesn't have a lot of practical experience in performing, lip bubbles and resonance hums and his falsetto slides and all that stuff are nice. They'll expand range, but they don't give you any context in terms of singing songs. Jamie's method does not go into vowel work, resonance, consonant work, vowel shaping, tonality. It's kind of stuck in the late 80s in terms of all about range. And that's not what singing is all about. Let's see. When I sing, I look pregnant. I don't know what Tristan's baritone baloney is, and I really don't care. Do you think baritones can increase their range with steroids? No. Through proper technique. I'm a baritone, and I extended my range through proper technique and a lot of practice and a lot of hours of vocalizing and experimentation and knowing what to do correctly. Steroids, no. No. There are, some high-profile singers. They start to have problems with their voices. They go to doctors and they get steroid injections into the vocal cord. It's a short-term fix. It's like pumping cortisone into a football player's knee that's giving him trouble. All it does is treat the symptom, not the cause. So no, you cannot increase range with steroids. That's just an idiotic thing. I don't know if you read that somewhere or somebody told you that, but it's complete and absolute nonsense. Let's see. It's basically, can you debunk Tristan's baritone's baloney? I don't know what it is. I don't really care. But I probably could. How to be more relaxed and calm when singing or playing in public. Relaxed and calm. That comes from confidence. Confidence comes from knowing what you can and cannot do. Now, being relaxed and calm when playing in public, the more you do that, the more comfortable that becomes. It's like basically anything in life. Singing in front of people, this is for AK Acoustic. Singing in front of people, we just gained, I got 31 people watching, very nice. Sorry for the black screen for those of you just joining us. For some reason, my webcam does not want to seem to be engaging into the live stream. So we're just getting an audio live stream at the point I have to work out whatever the problem is today. I did do a test, and it worked fine, but for today, for some reason, I don't seem to be pulling enough video signal. I'm getting a spinning circle like it's trying to do it, but for some reason it doesn't do it. Not sure why. I have to go through my settings and find out what's going on. But yeah, the more you sing in public, the more you sing in front of people, the easier it becomes. But it's being confident in knowing what you can and can't do, and being very well rehearsed. And also, never go into performance thinking this is going to be amazing and perfect. Go in thinking there's probably going to be a few mistakes, a few stumbles. That's okay. I'll get through them. I'll worry about it later. Confidence comes from not fearing making a mistake. So really confident people aren't afraid of making a mistake. They know it'll happen, and they just know I'll deal with it later. No big deal. Push on and get right through it. And that's where confidence comes. But the more you do it, the better you get at it in terms of playing in front of people. Again, but you have to be confident, be very well rehearsed, and know what you can and cannot do. Let me get to some of these other questions here. What do I think about Felicia Ricci's anal support singing? Again, that's similar to Jamie Van Dara gets that, and you turn to like dig down like you're going to the bathroom. No one needs to support that much. You do not dig deep in like you're constipated. There's no reason to dig into your body that much or that far. This sort of rectal flexing. You do not need to dig that deep into the body. If your breath compression is correct and your resonance is right, you don't need to support that much because you're overloading the system. You're creating too much tension in the body. So no. Let's see. You have to understand. Okay. What singers today have great technique? What singers today have great technique in your opinion? Michael Sweet. No, technique is Barbara Streisand, Bette Midler. I'm trying to think of some of the people. Good technique. My student, Rod Stewart, is using good technique. He warms up and warms down and doesn't push and all of that. Off the top of my head, Ralph Scheepers of Primal Fear is good technique. It's hard to know because I'd have to do research into who's had problems, like someone like Adele, obviously not using correct technique, and Fahim Mucci, belting doesn't necessarily have to be done with a wide open mouth. It can be done with a more normal looking mouth. I mean, a wider mouth is better than a smaller mouth, but it doesn't have to be wide open. It's hard to singers have great technique. It's hard to know because you can have someone that's singing just very lightly singing and they're singing with great technique. For the people that have longevity, that still sound great today. Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, great technique. 40 years in, and still sounds amazing today. So great technique. He's also in really, really good shape physically. I'm trying to think of more contemporary people. Let's see. On Broadway, you have someone like Sutton Foster. Great technique on her end. Can we move our larynx during belting? Well, the larynx does move. It should float. It should go up and down. It shouldn't be stable. All right, belting is about resonance. What do you think about Ken Tamsin's lizard tongue? And I've spoken about this before in other ones. I have a video on tongue position. I don't know where Ken got this. He said he was taught this by some guy in Italy. Some open throat guy in Italy taught him this technique. I have not seen this lizard tongue, this elevated tongue position. I've not seen it notated in any book. And I wish I had the video here because I could pull out all the books on singing that I have here that go back to like 1855 that I have found. That have this tongue position anywhere. I've not seen any singer besides him use this technique. So, but hey, he makes it work for him. It looks weird when he does it, but he's made it work for him. So, I can't really, damn him, but I wouldn't advocate it. Let me put it that way. What do I think of the new Beatles Sgt. Pepper's remix? I like it. It's different. I know they based the remix off of the mono mix, which is the true mix of that album. The stereo mix it's cool. I like the fact that you can hear a lot of stuff that was buried in the original mixes. They pulled stuff out and separated a little bit, so you get a little bit more clarity, and you're hearing some stuff in the background that was very hard to hear in the original, even on the original mono mix. It was hard to hear some of this stuff. So it's kind of cool to hear some stuff that was buried in the mix. Some of the mixing is a little too separated for my taste. I think they went a little too stereo pan happy. But it's an interesting new version of the album. I'd like to see them do that with go back and do that with like something like Revolver or Rubber Soul, and do like a nice remix of that. Because Sgt. Pepper had so much stuff going on in it that it needed a little bit more separation. There's only so much separation they could do because they were recording on 4-track and then bouncing down to stereo to open up more tracks. So you have a lot of stuff stacked on multiple tracks. So it's hard to separate stuff out. So they did a really good job. I like it. It's just that it's different. I still prefer the mono mix, but I kind of like the new stereo mix. It's cool. Does Ariana Grande have a good technique? From what I saw of Ariana Grande singing, it seemed fine. We'll see, how her voice pans out over time. Ace Connell, are you a fake baritone? No. As you can hear from my speaking voice, it's a baritone. If I wasn't a baritone, I'd be talking up here if I wasn't a baritone. This is, when I tend to project and speak in videos, I tend to raise the pitch of my voice up here and talk up here a lot. Because it's just easier. It allows me to project easier. It's less strain on my voice. But what's my this is my normal speaking voice. And you can tell from my normal speaking voice, it's a baritone. This is my normal speaking voice if I relax it. When I'm speaking to my wife or I'm speaking to my daughter, this is the voice that I use. So as you can tell, this is a baritone voice. So it's heavy, it's thick. But I tend to like to talk up here because it's just easier, and it's easier for me to project, and it's less tiring on my voice. I would not advocate anybody checking out Tristan's videos. He's not making legit explanations. He contradicts himself a lot between videos. He'll advocate for one thing in one video and then say it's terrible, don't do that in another video. So he contradicts himself a lot. But like I said, Tristan could have done well. He's a knowledgeable kid, smart kid, but has no practical experience. And unfortunately, his attitude prevents him from doing anything on a professional level because he's inability to take advice. So, okay. Do you have to be born with a natural distortion to sound like Rod Stewart? Yes. To sound like Rod Stewart, James Brown, Janis Joplin, with that kind of natural raspiness like that, Steven Tyler, it's in their voice. You can hear it when they talk, when they laugh. When I was talking to Rod last weekend, he asked me how my room was, and I said, "Oh, the room is great," because he put me up in his hotel, which is a 5-star hotel, the Peninsula. It's like a $900 a night room, a bathtub with a TV. So when I saw him in the hallway, he was like, "How's your room?" And I said, "It's fantastic. Great, let's go have some fun." So it's in his speaking voice. When he laughs, you can hear the rasp in his voice. When Steven Tyler laughs, you can hear the rasp. It's a natural vocal defect. And Janis Joplin, when she laughed, you heard the hey. You heard that. So it's part of their voice. They don't have to learn how to do it. Okay. What do I think about Justin Bieber's technique in singing? Well, it's like I said, it Justin Bieber. Light. I don't like the whole go really thin. Oh baby, I don't really like that because he tends to do it on like a G above middle C when you can sing that in full voice. But I mean, his voice is not bad. I think he's a better drummer than a singer. Lots of people. Rod Stewart's been singing for 52 years. They've never damaged his voice. Never had any surgeries, never anything like that. How many low notes is it possible to add to your voice? It depends on your voice type. Probably 4 is a good round number. I've had female students that their lowest note was an F sharp 3, the F sharp below middle C, and I over time was able to get them down to I think a D3. We added some notes, D sharp or a D3 down there. Again, it's all low notes take more air, so you have to have really, really good support and good projection. Because the looser the vocal cords get, the more air pressure it takes to get them to actually physically vibrate. Let's see. Roger Burnley. Well, there's this new thing now with all the trans rights. You talk about Roger Burnley has really odd videos talking about transgender singing tips. What do you think about them? I have a couple of male to female transgendered students. In fact, I'm going to be taking one of them on as an associate to the rpmvocalstudio.com family. Bringing them on because they not only teach singing, more like metal singing, but also voice feminization. Again, it's tricky. I don't think Roger has any experience in that. I think it's just a trendy thing to add now because of all the transgenders' rights with the military and all that. So it's like in the news. So again, Roger Burnley, very nice man, and he means well. He really, really enjoys helping people learn how to sing. But Roger lacks experience. He lacks experience. When I mean experience in terms of his technical knowledge is extremely limited. He thinks every problem with the voice is caused by your swallowing muscles. Fix your swallowing muscles, do a nay, 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 and all your problems are solved. And that's simply not true. And that's because I don't see Roger ever talk about breath support. I never see him talk about vowels. I never see him talk about projection, resonance. It's all about your swallowing muscles. That's said because he comes from a singing background. Seth Riggs was one of his teachers, and he's kind of lost in the dogma of speech level singing, and so like I said, his knowledge and technique is extremely limited. Again, another guy that charges $300 a lesson, And for the life of me, I don't know why anyone would pay that. Like I said, he talks a lot and he smiles and he seems really upbeat and he's very happy. Seems like he enjoys what he's doing, but I think Roger just doesn't really have a lot of technical background on the voice. I don't think he has a very big sphere of experience. Performing, I think, I don't think the guy's performed in 20 years, so maybe even longer. At one time, I think he was quite a very accomplished performer. But, a lot of these guys, they just get into teaching, that's all they do. They don't perform anymore. So they've kind of lost touch with the practical applications of stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Are people natural belters? Yes, we all are natural belters. I just addressed that, Pat Twick. Jesus. But his nay, 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 nay. Every video is nay, 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 nay with your swallowing muscles. Like I said, he thinks every problem with the voice is caused by swallowing muscles, which is nonsense. There are tons of things that can go wrong with the voice. Let's see, are people natural belters? Yes. We all belted as children. Babies, infants are natural belters. My daughter is 7 now, so I can remember her being, 6 months old, 3 months old, and, screaming, because babies scream when they're hungry, when they're wet, when they're tired, when they just want to be held. And a little baby can scream at like 120 decibels. Go to any playground where there are a bunch of 5-year-olds. It's not quiet. Kids are belting all over the place because they're making sound the way nature intended, which is from the diaphragm with an open throat, relaxed, no inhibitions. They're just letting those sounds fly. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're singing hours on end. They never go home and go, "Hey, Bob, what's up for dinner?" We never lost our voice as kids from using it because we were doing sound naturally. All kids are natural belters. It's as we go into adulthood, those tween years, 12, 13, 14, when we start to go into high school, is when we start to lose connection with that natural belting process because we're taught about our indoor voices and to, act socially, behave socially, and, you don't want to play like a kid anymore because that looks childish. So we tend to socialize more and play less. So we start to lose that connection with that natural belting thing that we did. Plus also as we get older, we have more responsibility. So we're thinking about things more detail orientated. So that creeps into our thought process about everything. So it's like I said, singing is a process of elimination, not addition. So let's see. Carl Whedon. I don't know. Is that the other? Is that the guy with the? Why did I talk about Kristen like that? Because somebody asked me. He's gonna make a video now. I don't care. It hasn't prohibited. Many trans people try to do their surgery secretly. Can Roger Brindley be secretly trans? No. I don't think he's straight, but I don't really care about that either. That's neither here nor there. I'm concerned about his ability to teach properly and to overcharge people. What type of breathing and support technique does Halford use? I don't think he uses one, to tell you the truth. I know he doesn't warm up. He doesn't warm down, which is why his voice is starting to fail him, and he has very inconsistent shows. When I think about Chuck Gilmore, again, Chuck Gilmore is another speech level singing advocate, but he has a lot of practical experience performing. He is an active musical theater performer. Chuck is knowledgeable, again, but he's stuck in the pure dogma of speech level singing. And that's the problem with a lot of speech level singing people and pure classical people, is they get stuck in the dogma of that technique, and they're very unopen, very closed-minded in terms of about other techniques and using other things. Because what they learned, it works for them. So they think, well, this must be the right way, the only way to sing. And it's not really true. I mean, I've had some very pleasant conversations and slight little debates with Chuck Gilmore, and he's very open to discussing technique and learning from other people. But he's just going to continue to do what he does and teach what he does, and that's fine. There's room for everyone. I'm just not a one-size-fits-all kind of teacher. I think you should learn from everyone and learn everything about everyone. So it's whatever works for you. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Justin Stoney. Another guy. He's well, but he's a musical theater guy. So his approach is basically from a musical theater standpoint. He's knowledgeable. He knows his stuff. You can tell from his videos. He knows what he's talking about. He's obviously well read, again, but stuck in the musical theater approach to singing, pretty much. And again, that's going to narrow your view of technique. He teaches basically for people who are in musical theater. So his advice is going to be very narrow, because that's kind of the okay. I don't really want to get into like, well, what do you think of this guy and what do you think of that guy? I really don't want to get into that. Modern vocalist world. Well, that's Robert Luntes, who's like my closest vocal coach friend, beside him and Brett Manning probably. Say you don't know how to sing in the mix. Well, they don't know what mix is then. They don't know what mix is, because that's all I do is sing in a mix. That's all anybody does. Yes, Kathleen, your biggest challenge is overthinking, as I've gone over in our lessons. Let's see. Should the larynx be neutral when singing? I'm up to 32. We've got some more people that joined. Sorry for the blank screen. For some reason, I cannot get my webcam to work properly to this stream. I think it's with all my settings. I'll have to do some more testing to this. It says I'm healthy. My stream is healthy. Let's see. Okay. Filmofarage. Yeah, he's Australian. He lives in Japan, I think, now. Phil, again, I've had some conversations with Phil. I think Phil lacks relevance. Phil is another guy that lacks practical experience in terms of performance. You really can't be an effective teacher unless you have a lot of performance expertise, because you have to be able to relate what you're teaching to actual singing, and singing not just one song here or there into a microphone in a studio, but singing live on a stage for 45 minutes or 90 minutes at a clip, song after song after song, while moving around, trying to perform, trying to entertain, under hot lights. In some places they can still smoke and all that, bad monitors and all that kind of stuff. I think I said that. I think Phil, I think he means well. I don't get the whole life coaching thing. I mean, how can you be a life coach when you're like 25 years old? You haven't really lived a life yet. to really be telling somebody else how they should live theirs. So that's a little puzzling. And Per Bristow does the same thing too, all this life coaching nonsense. Eric Arsenault, again, an R&B singer, speech level guy. Means well, really good singer though. He does his he does what he does really, really well. Who's the worst vocal coach on YouTube? I'm not going to answer that because there's no possible way to know that. Worst in what way? If you're trolling, and just being caustic, then that would be Tristan. There are worse teachers on YouTube just basically because of the advice they give out. They don't have a freaking clue about anything. So worse could be just in terms of, I think they're doing an extremely disservice to people because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like I said, Tristan knows what he's talking about. He's very knowledgeable. He just has no practical experience. I don't really care if Tristan is straight or if Roger's straight. I don't care if they're straight or not. Don't care. What difference does it make? Don't really care. Can I talk about my breathing course? What is it based on? Well, the breathing course is, it's going to be everything you need to know about how to breathe correctly to sing. Where it should come from, how to develop it, how to increase your strength and stability in breathing. How do we create and control a proper exhale to sing on? How do we create a flow and evenness in the voice? Because the breath is what evens the voice out. Gives you your power, gives you your projection, but it also evens the voice out. It also blends the voice. I'm going to be talking about that. It's not going to have anything in it about how to sing high or range extension and all that. That's in Breaking the Chains. This is all about your breath. Now, it's not going to be, an amazingly exhaustive course, because teaching someone how to breathe properly is not extremely difficult. But I want to give people as much information as possible and as many different ways to practice, strengthen, and develop their breath support for singing as I can. There are a lot of people out there. Jamie Vandera has a ultimate breathing workout and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think a lot of it has any relevance to actual singing. Hissing for 45 seconds or 90 seconds does not teach you how to do that in a song. You're not doing that in a song. It's not relevant to singing or performing. All you learn is how to hiss for 60 seconds. That's all you end up learning how to do. It's not relevant. It has no relevance. So that's what this is. This is all going to be relevant training is what the breathing course is going to be based on. Why is Messe di Voce so hard? Because because your vocal cord has to do a really complex coordination of this. Bringing it back in. The vocal cord has to do like these very, very fine coordinations on the fly in microseconds. And there's a lot of chance. The crescendo or the swell out is easier. Pulling it back in is harder because the vocal cords are relaxing and pressure is coming off the vocal cord. They're loosening. So they're becoming unstable. So it's more apt to fail. So like I said, I know a lot of really, really great singers and competent coaches who can do the swell outward, can do the crescendo, but cannot do the decrescendo. It's hard. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of control. What do I think about Robert Lunte? Rob is a friend of mine. I disagree with him on several things having to do with his technique and more or less how he teaches. I don't think more is better. This is nothing behind his back. I've told him this stuff before. He's the king of over-explaining. If you want to become a mechanic, Robert's the guy to go to. If you want to learn how to drive, guys like me are more the people. If you want to learn all the nuts and bolts about singing and know everything there is mechanically and technique-wise and physically what's going on in the voice, Robert's your guy. He knows all that stuff. He thrives on it. For me, I don't think you need to know all that stuff to be an excellent singer. Like I said before, I don't think Pavarotti, Caruso, Celine Dion, you know, I don't think they know or knew every technical thing about how the voice worked. Because even in their time, not a lot of it was known. So they didn't. You couldn't really. A lot of it was supposition. You know, I don't know what gay voice is. I don't know how you get rid of it. Again, I'm not going to get into Tristan. I don't really about that. Really care. No, someone asked me about. I wasn't the one who brought up someone wasn't straight. Someone asked me if they thought Roger Burnley was secretly transitioning. No. I didn't bring it because I don't really care if he's gay or not. I don't really care. I don't give a shit. How do you learn how to yodel? Well, yodel is a glottal flip. It's a kind of yodeling. In country music, they did a lot, you know. Down on the farm, I know. This glottal flip. That's a yodel. Slim Whitman used to do a thing like that. Let's see. How come you're so bitter about everyone else who teaches? I am not bitter about anyone. Someone asks me a question, I will tell you what I think. I am not bitter about anyone. I could give a shit what they do, really. You ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what I think. You know, and again, it's not anything I'll say behind anybody's back. If they were to ask me, I would tell them exactly the same thing. I don't really care what anybody else. I'm doing my thing, and that's all I really care about. Bitterness is jealousy. I'm not jealous about anybody else. You know, none of them have Rod Stewart as a student. None of them gets to travel with them, fly on the private jet with their students. I do. So I'm not bitter about anybody. Bitter comes from jealousy. I'm not jealous of any other coaches. Not at all. I mean, I wish I could get, Seth Riggs' prices at $500 a lesson. I wish I could get that, but if he can find video that people will pay that, fine for them. Let's see. Do I think Ken Tamplin is lip syncing in some videos? I don't really care. If he is or he isn't. I know some have brought that up. If he does, so what? Again, I've had many people come to me. He used to be Ken Tamplin's students, bought his course. Ken is a phenomenal singer. As far as teaching goes, from what I hear from his students, not so good. Not so good as a teacher. I don't have any personal experience. Like I said, I owned his first version of his vocal course. I don't know what he's done to improve it since then. I thought it was disorganized and kind of hard to follow, and it's very narrow in its scope. But Ken is a phenomenal singer. Even if he's lip syncing, he still had to sing that thing. He still had to sing it. I just don't like that if he is lip syncing at some of them. I don't like the disingenuous of that, because then it looks like every time he sings, it's perfect, and it's simply not true. That's why my videos all have warts and all. If I hit a bum note or it doesn't sound that great, I let it in there. Right. Right, anal probe. I'm going to have to remove you. Okay. I'm going to remove that because you're just being stupid. And I'm actually going to block you out. If you're asking me about Ken Tamplin's tongue, I addressed that earlier. Your grandma is the biggest crush on Rod Stewart. Well, I'm sure he'd be very flattered to hear that. He's a very, very down-to-earth guy. He doesn't travel with bodyguards and all that. He doesn't have that, I'm Rod Stewart, and, and I'm a rock star and all that. No. He's a consummate professional. I think it did Michael Cunningham. I don't think it's that word that he has a huge voice. Like I said, Ken is a phenomenal singer, much better than I am. But will anybody learn? Will anybody be able to sing like him? Learning his techniques, probably not. Probably 1 in 1,000 will be able to sing like him. Very few, even professionals, can sing like him. He has a very, very strong, powerful, full voice. He's made it work for 30 years, and good for him. Fantastic. I just don't think... Thing is that... when did I work with Rod Stewart? I've been working with Rod Stewart for the past about 8 months, since about December of last year. When he started his residency he started doing some shows in Europe, and then he started his residency in Las Vegas. And I've been working with him since then. I do have another celebrity client, but I cannot tell you who that is, because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Not by his doing, by his manager's doing. He doesn't have a problem with me telling, I could say it's he, doesn't have a problem with me telling anyone, but his manager did. So, and he apologized to me about it. He's like, I'm sorry, they made you sign that. I don't care if you tell people I'm your student and all that, but managers have this thing about perception and all that, and they don't want anybody to think that they can't. But Rod Stewart was. He encouraged me. When I was traveling with him, he's like, take lots of pictures and put them on your website. So if you look at my Instagram feed, which is RPM Vocal Studio, I posted a couple of pictures of me with Rod backstage and by the private jet and all that when I traveled with him last weekend in Chicago. So he basically he took me on travel with him for a couple of dates because he wanted me to observe his everyday show routine, to make sure that he was doing things correctly, that he was eating correctly, that his show prep, his warm-up was all correct, that all the stuff that he had laid out on his table with his humidifier and neti pot and his entertainer's secret spray and all that stuff was correct, that his warm-up was correct, that doing the warm-down and all that, and he wanted me to observe his show routine. So I traveled with him for a couple of days. So that was, but I've been tutoring him for about 8 months, and I think I'm going to be going to Europe with him later in the year. Okay, let's see. With Gary Katona, I had a student of mine who went to Gary Katona, and I'll let you. The way he described Gary Katona was he's certifiably insane. I've never spoken to Gary, so I don't know him. But from a student of mine who went to him, told him he is certifiably insane. That he's absolutely nuts. So Gary advocates, from what I understand, Gary advocates that every male singer should be a baritone. There should be no such thing as tenors, which I think is very odd. Gary is more of a therapist. So I mean, he was Whitney Houston's last vocal coach, and he didn't get anywhere with her. But that wasn't his fault. Whitney Houston just didn't want to really change her habits. Whitney Houston was taking 30-minute vocal lessons several times a week. Didn't quit smoking. Just didn't care. Gary tried to help her. Gary helped Jack Klugman. Oscar from The Odd Couple and Quincy, if you're old enough to remember who those are, when he lost part of his vocal cord from throat cancer, Gary Katona helped him get his voice back. So, I mean, Gary is good for that. But in terms of a singing coach, I think Gary has a lot of issues. Really weird. Let's see. Is a nebulizer better than a personal steam inhaler? Probably. I think a nebulizer makes a finer mist. I mean, when you're inhaling steam, when you're inhaling it, it's going over the vocal cords, it's going through the it's still going through the mucous membrane. You know, I mean, it's going through your nasal passages and it's going into the throat, and your vocal cords are wide open, so it is touching the vocal cord and going into your lungs. It's very good for you. The nebulizer is probably a little bit better because I think that the mist is a finer mist, but I can't really see there being much difference between the two in the long run. Let me scroll back up here. I'm going to have to cut this off in a few minutes. What singing tutors do you like the sound of their singing voice? Not teaching techniques, but voice. What singing tutors? Let's see. Somebody mentioned Chuck Gilmore before. I like his voice. I like Eric Arsenault's voice. Obviously, like I said, I like Ken Tamplin's voice. Eric Arsenault is a great R&B singer. Paul McKay, also a great R&B singer. Really good coach up in Canada there. Great singing voice. I'm trying to kind of think people. Sing-Wise Vocals was on here before. She has a really nice voice. I'm trying to think of people off the top of my head. It's hard to think. Phil Mufarege has a nice voice. I don't know if I'm correctly saying his last name, Mufarege. But he has a nice singing voice. I like the tone of it. The approach is nice. I'm trying to think of someone else I've seen sing. A lot of coaches don't let you see them sing. So, like Roger Burnley, you never see him sing a song. Seth Riggs, you never see him sing a song. Jamie Van Der, you never seen him sing a song. I like Brett Manning's voice for what he does. He kind of sings in this kind of very low, kind of Radiohead-ish, singing on it. It's not for what it is. I think it's a little too a little too much sob and cry in the voice, but it's a nice voice. Celeb Klein, I can tell you one. Ralph Sheepers of Primal Fear. Also took some advice from me as well. Okay, let's see. Yes, Quincy MD. Let's see. Can women be baritones? No. You're basically an alto. What they call an alto is a female baritone, basically. Why is this doing about singing questions when you discuss the mental health of someone you don't even know? No one asked that. Yes, they did. People are asking me questions about other teachers. So and I just told you, what my student said to me after having taken a couple of lessons from Gary Gattona. His interest in, his impression was that Gary Gattona is certifiably insane. I guess that would have to be with his experience in terms of in the lessons, that's the conclusion he came from. Like I said, I've never spoken to Gary, so I don't really know anything, but that's what my student said. So I'll go by that. I've ever met Jet Tate. Yes, a couple of times. But back in the 80s, and 1990 was the last time I met him. 90 or 91. I was on the Empire tour, but I met him in '84. I met him in '87, and then in 1990. And all those 3 times he was very nice. Nowadays he's a dick. Jeff Tate has turned into the type of person you don't want to meet. He doesn't care about his fans. He goes through the motions, kind of riding on his reputation, which isn't much anymore. And that's why he was kicked out of Queensryche, because he turned into a dick. A dictatorial asshole. So that was it for them. You can't have. Rod Stewart said to me, most of the people that have been working for him have been working for him for like 30 years. Most of his technical crew, like the lighting guys, the backline guys, the sound mixers. His stage manager, Dave, I think his name was, has been working with him since 1976. 41 years. So, and he said to me, he goes, and about the guys that he has playing in his band now, he said to me, the main thing is, they're all really nice people. They do their jobs well, but they all get along, but all being right nice people is the most important, because you can't have a bad apple in the bunch, So, when I do Rod's voice, that kind of makes me cough. So that was important to him. So, being nice is, you have to be, and Jeff Tate was basically turned into an asshole, and you can't have that in a band. Tristan's boyfriend is also a voice to you. What about him? I don't really know, don't really care. What do you think of Sing-Wise? Be honest. Because I think that's you, Tristan, asking me these stupid questions. I've only watched a few of her videos. I don't really know. I haven't gone through her whole thing, so I don't really know. Again, I think she's targeting a specific demographic of singer, of type of singer. So, and that's fine. I don't really have enough information to give an informed opinion. Well, Adele's technique is wrong. I'll give you my whole thing on Adele and her problem. Well, she's blown vocal cords, nodules, twice in 6 years. And she's 29. She's not even 30 years old. That tells you right there something's really, really wrong. To first blow your voice out at like 25, and you're a pop singer. There are guys in like, Tom Araya from Slayer, has been screaming, for 35 years, and never blew his voice out like that. Rod Stewart's been singing for 52 years, since 1965. Never had a problem with his voice. When he went through all the 70s, cocaine binge, trashing hotels, getting drunk, never had a problem with his voice. Adele is 29 and done it twice. Technique has to be better. And on the tour that she just canceled, the 3 remaining shows, her shows were every 3 days, which means she had 2 days to recover. If you can't recover in 2 days, something's really, really wrong. Now, I also read her backstage rider, her hospitality rider, for her 2016 tour. And it was a recipe for disaster. She wanted in her dressing room milk, orange juice, bowls full of bite-sized candy, and Marlboro cigarettes, Marlboro Light cigarettes. 4 things a singer should not be consuming on show day, strictly before a show, backstage before a show. Milk, mucus forming. Orange juice, acidic, acid reflux, not good for your system while you're trying to sing. Candy bar, also mucus forming. And the sugar, not good for you also. And then cigarettes. So she didn't learn anything from the first time it happened to her. Didn't learn a thing from that. Continued to go right back doing what she was doing before, so of course it's going to happen again. So I think her live singing career is basically over. And that's a shame. Should breath support be a downward feeling or forward? Downward. Let's see. I'm trying to go back up here. We hear your opinions on others which experience in the same field. It's tough to find someone that doesn't seem to be selling snake oil. There was one guy who I went to town on. You know, I mean, I had my problems with Tristan and all that, but that was basically just on his attitude, his professionalism. Like I said, he's experienced. He's very well knowledged. He reads a lot, does a lot of research, but has no practical application for that stuff. So his ability to kind of convey it in a practical sense is limited. It was his attitude I had a problem with. Now, snake oil salesman was the guy. Superior Singing Method. That was complete and utter snake oil. That was a marketing scheme put together by this fake coach, fake singing coach, with investors. Now, he let that slip in one of his videos, that he had investors. What vocal coach has investors? They invested a lot of... And you notice he's gone now. Came onto the scene, blasted with all his ads and all his videos, and now has suddenly dropped off. Dropped off the radar. Because he was found out basically to be a charlatan. Bullshit. That was selling crap. It was a way to get your name on a marketing list and all that. And he does these like life coach seminars, which is also a whole bunch of bullshit too. That was really the one person I think is completely selling, was a snake oil salesman, was the Superior Singing Method guy. Let's see. Do you think everyone can learn to sing clearly and with nice resonant? Yes. How far you take that in terms of your expertise, going from, you know, good singer to great singer to expert level, is up to you, really. But everyone can learn to sing clearly with nice resonance. Sure. Do I think Phil Mirage is opening his mouth too much? Sometimes, yes. Okay, let's see. Let me go back down. She swears too much. Well, it's a very British thing, that Adele swears too much. Do you drink smoke, Kevin? Well, I do not smoke. I have never smoked in my life, never done drugs. I don't even like to take an aspirin when I have a headache. I tend to rather take a nap than take an aspirin. I try not to use antihistamines when I have a cold unless it's going to keep me from sleeping. But a drink, I can probably count the amount of drinks I have in a year on both hands and not use all my fingers. So I mean, I had a couple of glasses of wine with Rod. I had one backstage. He didn't drink, I did. And I had with him, I had a glass of wine with him on the plane after the show. When we were on the plane, we were on the jet coming back from Cincinnati back to Chicago. They had a glass of wine waiting for him, and you know, we had some very expensive chocolates. But he said, I don't know, I guess you call him a hostess on the plane. You can't really call him a stewardess on a private jet. But she came, you know, you want some chocolate, and he said, only my vocal coach says it's okay. And I said, it's after the show, so you're all right. You just don't want to consume it before the show, because you'll have enough hours. You know, you've got like 20 hours now to let your body process and get rid of any mucus you might form from the chocolate. Will be gone by tomorrow, so don't worry about it. So he had a little bit of chocolate. You know, the wine was fine, because he drinks a lot of water, so he's good. Do you refrain when singing live? Well, I don't drink. I only drink water. Day of show, I only drink water. If I feel a little run down, I might have like a Red Bull or one of those 5-hour energy things. Sometimes a Snapple, peach iced tea, or maybe a Coke. But I'm drinking tons and tons of water, so that one can of you know, Coke or one little bottle of Snapple iced tea is not really going to dehydrate me. I don't know who you're talking about. Uncle met him. Jeff Tate, I guess. Let's see. Is soy milk okay? Soy is bad for your body, period. Soy milk is bad for your body, period. It's just bad for your body. So, I would say if you want to drink milk, I would say go for coconut. Really, really good. Very good hydration. But be careful with coconut milk. It's a natural laxative. So if you drink a lot of it, you're going to be hitting the bathroom a lot. Soy milk, just soy in general, and tofu is bad for you. It's just bad for your body. Every competent food nutritionist will tell you it's not good for you. So breath support shouldn't be pressed against the chest. No, it should come from right around your waistline, and the pressure should feel like you're coming up. Here's a very good thing about breath support. Do this, go, very simple, go, hey! Or cough. And you'll feel where breath support should come from. It comes from the core section, which is the area between the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your belt line or your waistline there. That section right there around your belly button, on your is where the core is, and that's where it all. Are there such things as veggie milks? Kiribatinesis in my band. No. Let's see. What do I think about Uncle Rollo? Nice to see you. How do I feel about modern day auto-tuning in music? I don't like it. Like you said, older recordings seem to have pitch variance, because that's the way the voice is. It's not perfect. Taking you wouldn't want to go back and, auto-tune a Frank Sinatra record, or a Janis Joplin record, or a Jimi Hendrix record, or a Led Zeppelin record, or, even a Nirvana record. The fact that they have variance in pitch, and maybe it's not quite on all the time, especially with Nirvana, there's part of the charm of it. Now, I wouldn't want to go back and auto-tune, Elvis records. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Artificially auto-tuning, it's because producers have this weird notion that things should be perfectly on pitch. The problem is it takes the naturalness out of the voice. Even if you get yourself a tuner app on your phone and sing a note, and you will see the needle will go above and below. Let's say you sing an A. You'll be on the A one moment. The pitch will drop slightly, then go above the A, then come back in pitch and drop. That's what the human voice does, because it's oscillating. So it is varying in length all the time. So it's not stuck in a specific spot and unmoving. And to do that to the human voice artificially takes all the character out of a voice. So like I said, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Someone asked about beer. Let's see. Like I said, beer, wine, it's fine. Like I said, about this whole thing, beer, just a sip. Again, it's all down to, and you can have beer anytime you want. Show day, I would limit the amount. If you want to have a beer, fine. Balance it with a bottle of water. How much are these? I have one in front of me here. A pint, 16.9 influences of Poland spring water. Balance the beer out with water. You want to have a shot? Have a shot. Balance it out with some water. It keeps you from getting drunk. And two, you are nullifying the drying effect of the alcohol. Most beverages, tea, soda, beer, are water-based anyway. They're flavored water. So, you have to consume a lot of beer to become dehydrated. So, a sip of beer, fine. If it doesn't bother you, do it. I don't really care. Coffee, again, coffee is the same. It's water-based. You're flavoring coffee. You're flavoring water. Again, decaffeinated is better, because it's the caffeine that dehydrates the body. But if you're balancing it with, equal or double the amounts of water, drink coffee. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you, not to drink it, Kathleen. Kathleen Hudson there is a student of mine. You can drink coffee. Just balance it out with water. Do I know who Seth Riggs is? Of course, I don't know many people who don't know who Seth Riggs is. Yo mama. Yo mama. Cody Sturgeon, is pizza good for singing? No. All that cheese it makes very mucus. Makes a lot of mucus in your throat. Again, but I've had 2 slices of pizza and gone right on and did 3 sets. So because I was done basically before really all that mucus could really settle into my system. It's if you have it like almond and cashew milk. Yeah, I guess that's okay. You just don't want to have soy. Do you belt in your head or your chest voice? I belt in chest voice. I hate to use that term, but my lower range and a bit of an upper mix, which is a kind of a mix of chest and head if you want to use those terms. Okay. Do you follow the complete vocal technique thing? Yes, I have the book. I have actually when they first put out the book in English. CVT is a little confusing because it uses all these vocal modes and things, and I think a lot of it is it segments the voice in ways that don't need to be segmented. About whistle. Kiriba Betinence, I guess. Any experience with thoughts? I have no experience with whistle. My voice doesn't want to do it. I have no use for it. I have taught a couple of students how to do it, but I myself cannot do it. I think it's a nice trick. I don't think it has a lot of usefulness in singing. Mariah Carey has made a career out of it, but she overdoes it. Jeremy Wright, thanks for joining us. I'm going to be cutting this off in about 2 hours. About 20 minutes, So, bourbon, not before singing. Again, like I talked about beer or wine or a shot you want to take, balance it out with double the amount of water. So if you want to have a shot of bourbon, have a shot of bourbon. Drink a glass of water. Drink an 8S glass of water. Balance it out. It keeps you from, and 1, the water keeps you from getting drunk. And 2, the water will, counteract the effects of the bourbon. But if you want to have a shot of bourbon or vodka or whatever, or whiskey, to help loosen you up before you go out and sing, do it. But make sure you're drinking lots of water all of the day before that, and water after that. Was his good to talk about Jeff Tate? Was his technique good back then? Yes. Do you think he could sing like he used to if he tried? Yes. He smokes and he drinks too much, and he's gotten fat and lazy. He's resting on his laurels, resting on his reputation. He's more concerned about his vineyard and riding on his reputation than his voice. He's tried to get some of it back now because of Todd Latour being in Queensryche. So he's tried to up his game a little bit. For a long time, he just basically just gave up. And just, I'm Jeff Tate and they'll just show up anyway. I don't know how to pronounce that. Osmium Studios, distinct. Do you think Ken Tipler is lip syncing? I talked about this before. He may be, he may not be. Even if he is, I'd have a problem with that because it's disingenuous marketing. But even if he's lip syncing, he still had to sing that. He still had to sing that into the microphone and do that performance. So kudos to him. So, I think I still think it's a little disingenuous if he's lip syncing, because he had a lot of time to get that right. He could do multiple takes and get it right and then lip sync and make it look perfect. As if every time he sings perfectly. And that's just simply not the case. Which is why you don't see me do videos like that. I mean, I'll do a couple maybe. But you don't see me do videos like that because it's too easy to fake. Tim Mighton is saying he saw Rod Stewart in Shrewsbury. It wasn't very good. I think ended early. I'm assuming this. When was that? Because on this tour he's been singing phenomenal. He does about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. He has been battling a little bit of a throat infection since the early part of the year. But he hasn't had it in a while. So I don't know when you saw him. On this tour or maybe last year. Let's see. Right. Autotune is just what a part of the market demands. It's not a big deal, Solomon. I don't think it's what the market demands. I think it's become commonplace among producers because they think that's what people want to hear. But most of the under 25 students that come to me don't listen to anything today. They listen to old music. They like classic rock because they don't like the auto-tuned crap of today. They don't want to listen to it. They want to listen to real singing, where you had to do it in one take or two takes. You had to be able to sing it live. What if a transgender has a surgery to change back? How does it change their voice? Well, once you have surgery on the voice, it's changed forever. Walt Whiskey's fine. Kids have started singing perfectly in tune because all they hear is auto-tune music. No. No one can sing perfectly in tune. It's impossible for the human voice because of the variance in terms of when the vocal cord is vibrating and oscillating. It cannot hold that position perfectly. Like I said before, get yourself... Patrick Jesus, I have activated the camera for some reason. It's not coming through. I don't know why. When I did my tests on this yesterday, it worked fine. I don't know why it's not working today. I think it has something to do with the streaming engine thing. The webcam is on. I mean, it's activated. If I look at my webcam app, it's on. I can see me. For some reason, it's not coming through the stream. So, not really sure why. So, sorry about that. Let's see. Do you always have to direct the voice to the mask? No. You can, and you can also... well, the good thing is about Patrick Jesus staring at the black screen is you don't have to stare at the black screen. You can do other things while I'm doing this. Seeing me doesn't really... not really going to make much of a difference. I understand the socialness of this, of seeing the person that you're talking to. But just pictures were over the phone. Does pizza help you hit those high notes? Serious question. No. This serious, Tammy, because I can't see it. I don't. Yeah, there's something wrong with the connection here. When I did my tests for the stream, it worked. My camera worked fine. For some reason, now activating it now, it's just not going through. I don't really know why. I've tried to reboot it a couple of times early on, and the camera just won't come on. I don't really know why. Sorry about this. I'll try to get my bugs worked out for the next one I do. Let's see. Devin Townsend as a singer, musician. Does he have a good technique for his screams? I don't know. You're my fave singer of all time. Oh, let's see. My fave singer of all time. Don Dokken. Because his voice was as close to mine as possible in terms of nice, clean, melodic singing. But then I was also, in the 80s, I was a huge Jeff Tate fan. Worshipped him. But over time, he disappointed me. And so is Don Dokken. Do I like Michael Jackson's voice? Yes. A little too thin, a little too girly, but I like his voice. Michael had a lot of, like Rod Stewart, knew how to sing a song. Michael really knew how to deliver a song, really knew how to put everything in him into the song. And whether you liked his, and all that kind of stuff, the way you make me feel, that kind of upper pharyngeal voice. You couldn't deny that the guy really was passionate in when he's singing. The song was passionately sung. He really was into it. I recently saw a video clip from inside this Neverland Ranch when they were selling off the assets. And he had a private bedroom that no one was allowed to go into. Not even his kids, not his bodyguards. No one was allowed to go into this room. This was his private sanctuary. And he had a wardrobe case, a wardrobe dresser thing. I forget what they call those things. And wardrobe closet kind of thing. It had mirrors on the front. And he had written in Sharpie on the mirror, "Trained to Perfection." And he signed it with the date, like 1993 or something like that. So every time he got up to get dressed, to take something out of that thing, he had to read that. So that's trained to perfection. And Michael was a constant performer. He's constantly training, constantly. I mean, just watch the This Is It documentary film, and you can see how hard he trained for. You know, even at his level, he was still thinking, I have to be great. I have to be awesome. Prince was the same way. Goku Black, very nervous singer. I was wondering how to make my voice less nervous and shaky. Nervous singer. Nerves comes from confidence. Being afraid of making a mistake. I talked about this earlier. Knowing what you can and cannot do. Being very well prepared, very well rehearsed. Singing in front of people is a learned skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. You just have to take chances. The number one obstacle of confidence is fear. Not being afraid to fail. Guys that are like motivational speakers, like that Tony Robbins guy, very intense. The one thing he is not is afraid to make a mistake. If he says something wrong, if something goes wrong with the video presentation, if a piece of scenery falls over, he doesn't care. He makes light of it. No big deal. He knows stuff like that's going to happen, and he just keep moving forward. When you're nervous, the first place that nervousness shows up is in your voice. Same with anger, same with sadness, same with disappointment, shows up in your voice. So, you have to do it more. You have to know what you can and cannot do. I've talked about CVT before. I think they advocate, with all that mode stuff, I think they advocate. I'm going to finish in about 15 minutes, Tim Mighton. About 5:30, 5:35 my time. I got to a late start here. How do I grow my hair out like yours? Just let it grow. Let's see. What is breast support? Everyone is always talking about. Well, breast support's one of my favorite things. I love supporting the breasts. Really big breast support. So, I'm all for that. Let's see. What about rasp like Sebastian Bach? Again, Sebastian Bach is a natural rasp in his voice. Listen to him talk, listen to him laugh. You hear the rasp in there. It's natural for him. It's a vocal defect. Let's see. I had a voice teacher who told me, Jordan Kowalski. I had a voice teacher who told me that it's impossible to distort the voice safely and that vocal fry is extremely. Nonsense. It's impossible to distort the voice safely. You can. There are people that do it all the time. I played with a bass player who could turn his grit on and off. Never hurt himself, never did it. You can distort the voice safely. There are 1,000 ways to do it wrong, but only a couple of ways to do it right. When they say it was impossible to distort the voice safely, it means because they didn't know anything about it. Make your mix chestier. Yes, that A.J. Burnett. That has to do with resonance. it has to do with resonance. I've heard many people say pulling up chest is unhealthy. Yes, it is. Because you will get to a point when you're pulling chest, that's basically you're overloading, you're overcompressing, and you're overloading the vocal cords, and they can't stretch anymore. There's too much pressure on them. Too much pressure, and you overload the cords, and they get to a point where they can't stretch anymore. And that's where you get, you're trying to pull a thickness of a vocal cord too high. How high can I belt? It depends on the day. Sometimes I can belt a high C, a C5. Some days I can go to a D5. And some days I can only belt to like a B flat or a B. It varies from day to day, based on how much sleep I've gotten, all that kind of stuff. It varies, but I can. B flat of B is normal for a belt for me. No, starting voice is extremely dangerous. There are teachers that tell you, just even vocal fry is, so just Ace Connell asks about Axl Rose. Mickey Mouse has no rasp at all. Why is that? Well, go look at some recent clips of Axl Rose singing with AC/DC. There's plenty of rasp there, and no Mickey Mouse stuff. He was singing with a lot of. In fact, he did it quite well. And for most of those shows, he was sitting down because he broke his ankle or whatever. He did it really, really well. So he can put on the. Miles Kennedy is great. He's in a high baritone. A great bridging technique, nice blending. Is lemon juice good for getting rid of mucus? If you drink, what's better than lemon juice? Eat a green apple, not a red apple, a green apple. Very good for getting rid of mucus. Really good for like pasty, mucusy thing of your there. Gargling with warm salt water is also very good for getting rid of mucus, excess mucus. Let's see. Okay, I haven't seen any clips from the Guns N' Roses tour, so I don't know what he's doing now. He just might not want to sing them all with rasp. I don't know. Okay, that's about the end of the things here. Let's try to go back here. Somebody who asked, I think Tristan dropped off. Because I wasn't taking the bait. Alright, so is opening your mouth wide a bad habit? It depends which way you're opening it. Brett B asked. If you're opening your mouth too wide horizontally from side to side, from ear to ear, that's bad. But opening it vertically, top to bottom, is not bad. It shouldn't be too wide, though. I like to say about 3 fingers, depending on the width of your fingers, as if you're about to bite into an apple. That's a good wide open mouth. But it should be the jaw dropping down, not the sides of your mouth going side to side. Do I use vowel modifications? I like to do what's called vowel shading, which is not vowel modification. A vowel modification is you change the vowel, you modify it, you change it to something else. An example of a vowel modification, let's see. I'll take the Ken Tamplin. Okay, Jordan, thanks for joining us. I'll give you an example of a vowel modification from Ken Tamplin. His la, and to go through the break, he says to turn the la into and then open it back up to ah. He's modifying the vowel. He's changing it from ah to and back into ah. That's a vowel mod. I don't think you have to do that. I think you can shade the vowel towards a darker vowel, but maintain the purity of the vowel sound. I'll give you the Ken Tamplin vowel mod. La, and he changes it to an Well, let me go a little bit higher. Let me see. Let me go from a C here. Let me go from the low G. La, and I go la, and there's that kind of dip in the middle. I don't think you need to do that. You don't need to change the vowel from ah to to have to do that blend. And I'll give you an example of a shaded vowel that doesn't modify, but I get the same blend. La. I maintain the purity of the ah vowel, but I shaded it by. This is going to sound weird, but all I do is think that darker vowel. And what happens is my brain kind of goes into dual mode. It wants to sing the ah vowel, but I'm thinking the vowel. So what I get is a slight lowering of my larynx, slight more stability. My voice is kind of trying to go into the position of an vowel, but I'm keeping it in a position of an ah vowel. So there's a little bit of a tug of war there. But what it does is it shades the vowel. It kind of leans it towards an but doesn't turn it into the So for me, it's vowel shading, not vowel modding. So, I mean, there are some vowel mods that people do all the time. Like instead of like singing fire, most people sing fire. You know, fire up, or come on, baby, light my fire. If you sing that purely, come on, baby, light my fire. Fire. It's too musical theater, you know, or Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire, Ring of Fire. He sang it perfectly. But most people sing fire as fire, you know. If I take Freddie Mercury, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on as if nothing really matters. He does matters. Even his carry on is carry on. It's not carry on, it's a carry on. Cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow. Tomorrow, not tomorrow. He doesn't sing it as tomorrow, he sings it tomorrow. So he modifies slightly. It's okay, but you don't want to change the vowel. You don't want to modify it to something else. Have I heard Darren James Smith from Red Cartel? Yes. He's gotten better. I guess, Kenny, I guess you're somewhere in Vegas, because I know he's in Vegas. Vocal Vegas, or Vegas. Okay. Some of his stuff was... first couple of shows were really rough with the Red Cartel. He's kind of settled in. You know, Todd LaTorre, that first tour with Queensryche was not good for him. He had to settle into singing that material his way. He was trying too hard to be Jeff Tate's version, and it didn't work for him. He figured out how to sing the songs his way. Horizontally, yeah, not good. Yes, bad habit. Could I sing the word world? Okay. World. World! What I'm trying to do there is... this is actually a good teachable moment here. Using the sing the word world, we're going to use the PAT formula. And the PAT formula is to sing the word pat. Pat! Short P, long A, short T. World is... is he? Darren is from the UK originally? Some moment of Ontario. I thought they found him in Vegas. He lives in Canada. I didn't know that. I thought he was from Vegas. Because I know Jakey Lee lives in Vegas, or lived in Vegas. For all that time he was disappeared. No one knew where he was. He was living in Vegas. Living off a woman, of all things. Gigi Ganach from Phantom Blues. Living off of her. Living off her money for like the last 10 years. So, world there. So we go, world! If you listen to that, it's world! And then I go world at the very end. So I'm trying to keep the open part of world, which is the part, which is the vowel. Everything else there is a consonant, W-L-R-L-D. So I want to keep that, the o sound as open as long as possible. And then I'm going to open it real quick, sustain the vowel, and then close it off the end, pitch it off the end. So, world! There. And that's how you sing world. Why do I think there are lots of different opinions on how to sing and what techniques to use? Because people learn and then they form their own opinions on things. They add things to their technique. There are several different schools of singing. There have always been different opinions on how to sing and what technique you use. This has been going back hundreds of years. There's the Italian way. There's like the Swedish-German way. So there was even several Italian schools, different ways of Italian schools to do it. People just want to be different. Different opinions on how to sing. Because people shape their opinions based on their own worldview and their own experience. Mine is based on my experience, my expertise, my knowledge. And I've coalesced all that into my own worldview of what I think works for singing songs live. Not for getting really good at doing vocal exercises, but for singing songs live. So my approach is what I think works the quickest to get you singing songs and singing songs well in front of an audience. Because I think for most people, that's their goal. So I don't want to have you sitting here doing endless scales for years, because all you get really good at is doing scales. But then you have someone like Jimmy Vandero, who doesn't use scales, and Per Bristow, who says bizarrely, very strangely, that scales and exercises are counterproductive, which I think is absolute nonsense. But I think you've never seen the guy sing a song. He's a tennis guy. He's a tennis prodigy in Sweden or wherever he comes from. Or Danish, I think he's Danish or Swedish. He was a tennis prodigy. He's not a career singer. He hasn't done, he hasn't put in hundreds of hours on the stage. So no, the world sounds not like a diphthong. Okay, let's see. I don't know. Okay, thanks for the. I didn't know he was told to audition in a music store here in Long and McQuaid. I didn't know the story behind how he got the gig. I just assumed he was a local Vegas guy they found. I heard that somewhere that lying on your back is beneficial in practicing. Is this true? Are you going to be singing on your back? Well, I don't think so. So don't practice that way. I mean, you should be able to do it. You should be able to do it sitting in a chair, lying on your back, doing a handstand. You should be able to do it in any position. Break out the Kama Sutra. You should be able to sing in every position. Is it beneficial in practicing? No. It can't hurt, but I wouldn't see it being all that beneficial either. It's not practical. It's not relative. You're going to be singing standing up, so practice standing up. On practical singing, so how do I use scales in my methods? I use scales for technique purposes, to get the coordinations correct. Like I said, scales and exercises have their purpose. But I'm not an advocate for like long scales. That's what's the other one. I'm not really, those big, long, drawn-out scales. I don't think they're practical for contemporary modern singing. They're not relative. So I tend to keep my exercises. Now, I'm breaking the chains. There are some longer scales and some difficult ones. But I put up Breaking the Chains almost 7 years ago. 7 years ago, 2010. So I've evolved my teaching method over time. Breaking the Chains was more or less a sort of combination of things that I was taught. So over time, I don't use my program to teach my students in person. I don't use it. I think it's good for an at-home program. For me, I think one-on-one lessons are more productive than a singing course. Because a singing course can only take you so far. It can't teach you how to sing a song. It can't, because every song has its own set of challenges. It's all song specific. Would I prefer singing on songs a lot more than singing scales? Of course. You would prefer singing songs a lot more. Yeah, but again, singing songs are limited in terms of the amount of technique that they use. If you want to become a fantastic singer, if you want to get just good at singing the songs that you sing, then just sing those songs. But if you want to elevate your level, you have to bring in some technique. Like I was talking about my student Rod Stewart before. He does his warm-up. He does vocal scales and all that. He does all the vocal scales and all that. That's the first part of his vocal warm-up. The second half of it is he sings snippets of songs. So he combines the two. And that's what I tend to work on with students personally, is we do some scales to help you experience. What scales and exercises do is they help you experience different aspects of how the voice works. And then we try to relate that try to put that into relative training, into singing, as quickly as possible. And I can kind of reference back to a particular scale technique if something comes up in a song that needs work. I can say, use this little exercise here. That'll help you strengthen that coordination to sing that particular part of that song. So, riffs and runs, pentatonics, also good. Like I say, my thing is cornucopia, make a goulash, ratatouille, stew of every technique and thing you can possibly think of. It's the Bruce Lee method of learning. It's learn from anything and everyone. Take what's useful to you and throw out the rest. Don't get stuck in what he called the classical mess, which for him was the classical teaching of martial arts. All the forms and the katas. Says which it looks really nice in a demonstration, but it doesn't work in a street fight. So, and I was a big advocate of Bruce Lee. I got into martial arts at the age of 13. I was a competitive kung fu martial artist. I competed in Shaolin techniques. So I was a big Bruce Lee fan, still am. But more about his teaching, his Jeet Kune Do, which was no way is way, having no limitation is limitation. Which was, and his philosophy was, because he was a student of every martial art, not just Chinese. He was a student of Kendo, of Karate, of Judo, of Aikido, of Hapkido, of Eskrima, of, I think they call it Savate, French, kickboxing, American boxing. He loved Muhammad Ali. He would buy and watch films of Muhammad Ali's of his fights to pick up his techniques of what he was doing, physically and both mentally, psyching out the opponent. Loved him. Okay, Kathleen, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining me. Kathleen's one of my students. So my thing is learn from everything and everyone. Takes what's useful and throw away the rest. Don't get stuck in a one way of practicing. That's why I tell people, you want to buy my course? Buy my course. Buy my course. Buy Robert's course. Buy Ken's course. Buy Felicia's course. Learn from everyone. But when it comes to taking one-on-one lessons, I don't think Felicia teaches anyone personally. I think she's become Yes, Dan Inosanto was originally one of Bruce's students, and then ended up teaching him Eskrima, teaching him stick fighting and nunchaku, the nunchucks. And Dan became an advocate of the. He has his own JKD school in Los Angeles. In fact, I took a few lessons from Dan Inosanto way back in the 90s when he was teaching more full time. He's kind of old now. He's in his 70s now, so he doesn't teach as much as he used to. Bruce was a full on. Bruce had a problem with keeping his weight on because every day to him was a Sunday. Every day was a workout day. He worked out for hours every day, and he burned calories like a furnace. So, but he was into full on. Lots of chicken, meat for protein. Lots of full on eggs. Lots of milk. Drank a lot of straight milk, no soy. He had a lot of chicken, a lot of fish, a lot of whole eggs. But he had to eat and eat and eat and eat because he had so much lean muscle mass that his body burned calories like a furnace. So he had a hard time keeping his weight up. He couldn't bulk up in a sense. When you see Bruce Lee, that's all muscle. There's no wasted, no fat on him at all. Somebody asked, how long does Rod take to warm up? About 30 minutes. Yes, Dan Inosanto is a very nice guy. He does seminars now. When I went to him in the mid 90s, he was still teaching classes. Smaller classes. Now he does mostly seminars. Michael Cunningham, do you do Skype lessons? Yes, I do. Would they be with you, or do you have a team of coaches you work with? Only with me. I do not have, affiliate teachers or anything. I am taking on to the Rock the Stage stable of people. I am taking on someone who's going to be teaching some more more death metal stuff, but also voice feminization stuff. Now, they're not teaching my technique or anything like that. They teach their own thing, but they're going to be part of the Rock the Stage family. So that, and I'm going to be bringing out some other people. They're going to be teaching things for performance and guitar and all that. So that if you're looking for lessons and stuff, you'll have one place to go shopping, a one-stop shop for competent lessons about stuff, not only just in voice, but in music business, in guitar and bass and drums and all that. Marketing advice. They're all going to be part of the team, but they're not. They're not going to be. They're not going to be using my techniques or anything like that. So, yeah, Bruce Lee hovered around 132, 135 pounds most of the time. And it was all. He was 5'7", so it was all lean muscle mass. He was a friggin' monster. Actually can belt till B flat 4, but after that you really need to get into head voice. That's pretty universal. Yeah. Pretty much. Depends on the voice. Like I said, guys like Michael Sweet and Tony Harnell, even someone like what's his name? Roger McGuinn. These guys with really high voices. Bruce Dickinson can belt to like a D5, but he has no head voice. Ronnie James Dio was belting D5s. But for the average baritone, yeah, B flat, a B4, C5. On a good day, I can belt a C5. B flat 4, B. Let me see if I get a B flat 4 here. Let me see if I can demonstrate that for you. Yeah! This is a belt of a B flat 4. And I have not warmed up today. I gave a lesson to somebody earlier at like 11 o'clock, but I have not warmed up my voice at all today. I had too much to do. I've ever had trouble choosing the right key for a song. I don't choose keys for a song. If I can't sing the song in the original key, I don't sing the song. Pretty much. If I can't sing the song correctly in the right key, I don't sing the song. I pick another song. There's a gazillion other songs I did to sing in. You know, some guys do great with choosing their own keys. Puddles the Clown, who does all those crooner covers, puts the song in his own key for his own voice. He sounds great, you know. But I'm in bands, you know, where you kind of have to sing the song in the key that it's in. So that's just the way it's been for me. You have advice how to go higher than G4. I'm stuck. Not on this. When writing your own song. Okay, sorry about that. When writing my own song, what key to put it in? Well, it's usually when I hear the melody in my head, I generally hear the melody the way I want to sing it. So sometimes though I hear a melody in my head and it's too high for my voice. So I pick the chords out for that key, and then I try to find another key that's relative where it'll sound the same, but it's more manageable for me to sing. When I first started writing songs, I'm going to have to cut this off in about 4 minutes. When I first started writing songs, I was writing songs for another singer because I had another singer in my band. He was a natural tenor. And I wasn't very confident about my voice and all that stuff back then, so I was like, I'm very happy to be, you know, not the lead singer. I'm very happy to just be the bass player and, you know, all that. I'd be doing my harmonies. That's cool. You be the singer. He was also more confident as a person talking in front of people. So I was writing songs for him. So I was writing a lot of stuff in A. So there's all these high A belts and high B belts. Because his voice could handle it. And then he left the group and I had to take over. And I found these songs extremely hard to sing because I was writing them for somebody else's. So we dropped a lot of the songs that we were doing with him, and I started to write new songs. So I was writing songs more in my voice, which was capable at that time. I have a bigger voice, a stronger voice, and a full octave and a half more of range than I did 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Because back when I became lead singer of my own band, I wasn't taking vocal lessons. You know, I was just the background singer. It was when I discovered that I couldn't sing for longer than 40 minutes. Is when I discovered that, you know, maybe I should seek out some help. And the very first, it's too bad the camera isn't working, I could show you. The very first book I bought on voice was Mark Baxter's book, The Rock and Roll Singer Survival Guide, which is actually right here. If you could see, I could show you that I have the book. First printing from 1989 or 90, whatever it is. That's the first book I ever got on singing. It's a great book if you're just starting out singing and you want to have a very good basic concept of how the voice works. It's a nice primer. Mark Baxter's book, Rock and Roll Singer Survival Guide. Again, Mark, another guy, didn't have a lot of experience singing. I mean, I know he was in bands, but it was like real early in his early 20s. Because he's been teaching for like 30 years. And, you know, since like his mid-20s. So he didn't have much of a go at his career, so to speak. And he doesn't really perform anymore, so he hasn't really performed. He's not a performer. He doesn't really perform. But, you know, he gets celebrity clients, and, you know, he does well. So I can't damn him for that. But Mark Baxter's book's a great book. Okay. So then I used to just start writing songs that were more comfortable for me. I knew when you write enough songs, you start to figure out what keys work well for your voice. You know, for me, F sharp was good, E was good, C sharp was also another good key for me. HK, you're welcome. Okay, I'm going to have to cut this stream off. I'm sorry for any of you that is just joining me and maybe I didn't get to your questions. Nisi D, yes. Soy is full of isoflavones, which act like estrogen. Right. If you're a male, do not be consuming soy. At least if you ever want to have children. Soy brings down, it puts estrogen in the body, actually like estrogen, and it actually lowers your sperm count. So you'll have trouble conceiving children. So if you want to ever have children in your life, do not consume soy. It lowers your sperm count. And if you're really young, in your teens, and you're smoking, look forward to impotence and stunted growth. So singing is not good for you, neither is smoking. So soy is not good for you, neither is smoking. So, okay. Well, I thank all of you for this 3 hour and 20 minute stream. I only really wanted to go for an hour, but you asked such great questions. I stayed on for 3 hours and 20 minutes. I was only going to do an hour. But since my webcam for some stupid reason not working, yes, and coconut milk is a natural laxative. Something Gilligan and the skipper there never told us. Coconut milk is a natural laxative. So yeah, I said it's good. It's really good for hydration, but you're going to be in the bathroom a lot. So, well, anyway, I thank all of you, past, present. Those of you on the line, the 21 of you that have stayed on. I think I had 38. I think was the most watching at one time, which was cool. I'm going to figure out this camera situation. Not really sure why. All I'm getting is a spinning thing. It's not really working. I think it has to do with my settings and what's hooked into my computer at the moment. Because I know the webcam is connected to the computer. And then I had a microphone put in there as well. I think that was just overloading my my ability, my memory or bit rate, whatever was just being. But I'll get this figured out. I'm going to ask some people some questions to see what happened. But I thank all of you for coming on and joining me for this chat. I will have another one soon. I'm going to hopefully get this webcam situation. I mean, this is a top-of-the-line webcam. I don't know why it's... And this is a brand-new computer, so I don't know why it's not working. I have a feeling it's just my settings somehow. But I'll get it figured out. And thank you all for joining me. I'm going to cut off the stream now. But thank you all for joining me, and see you next time.